What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Saturday Standouts. We got a special one planned for you guys. We have been hinting at this collaboration with the hard count. So CJ right there at the bottom and Anthony down there at the bottom as well. A joint little NFL live draft going on for you guys tonight. And then our obvious other special guest there in his cowboy hat and his tie. Wish he would have wore a bolo instead of a tie, but our commissioner for the night is going to be Matt Scura. He's going to be able to do this tonight for you guys. But before we get going, it's time to pay the bills, like Connie loves to say. And we're going to go and head and, talk about our sponsors. You guys can see them right down there on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. Head over to teespring.com, which is our shop, /stores/unwrapped. And you can shop all your favorite, USN, unwrapped sports, merchandise, apparel, anything you want, individual shows, different styles of stuff on there as well. And then if you're a part of our Patreon, membership that we got going on, you can get a percentage off of your purchase every single time, whether that's 10%, 20%, depending on the level you join. You get that 10% at the $5 level, which you also get entered into a $10 Amazon gift card giveaway and get added into our Discord, which you get to join us and talking about all kinds of sports, gambling picks, things of that nature. And the Discord is 24/7, guys. It's an awesome thing we got going on there. At the $10 level, you get entered into that $10 Amazon gift card giveaway. You get entered into that Discord as well. You get 20% off of the Teespring store, which is even better than that 10% off. And then you get entered into the biggest prize giveaway that we have each month. And that is a signed memorabilia or signed jersey for, just the numerous amounts of players, teams, whatever it be. This past month, we had David Montgomery. Garrett won that. It was a signed David Montgomery jersey. The month before that, it was a signed Keenan Allen jersey. $10 gets you entered into that, guys. It makes it completely worth it. I'm hoping I win one of these times. I just need to check and see if I'm on that $5 or $10 level. Make sure I'm getting entered into that contest because I need some new merch. Some new signed memorabilia would be awesome. Other than that, guys, if you're gambling, head over to mybookie.ag. Use code USN100 for double your first deposit. Put in $50, get $50 free play. It's easy. Baseball just started, and NBA playoffs are coming up very shortly. A lot going on. Same with hockey. Hockey's fully full steam ahead as well. So. It's fun stuff going on there in the gambling world. So head over to mybookie.ag and use code USN100. And then last but not least, use code RXHemp.com or head over to RXHemp.com, Use code RXHemp-USN for 10% off every single purchase that you make there. It's an all-natural CBD pain relief cream, guys. It's got a hot and cooling effect to it. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into this live draft that we got for you tonight. Just a little background before we get going. Sam and I are going to be making picks for the Saturday Standouts team. CJ and Anthony are going to be making picks for the hard count team. And Matt is obviously going to be our commissioner tonight. We're going to alternate picks. So Sam and I won the coin toss last night when we did it. So Sam and I will be going first overall, and we'll be going and doing all the odd numbers, all the odd picks. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to my co-host, Sam. Let him introduce himself, say any plugs that he wants to, and, throw it around to the rest of the guys and introduce themselves to you guys who, if you're regular Saturday Standouts but don't watch hard count, you'll get to know them a little bit more too.
Thanks, Caleb. I'm doing well, and like Caleb said, we're going to be taking all the odd numbers. And I know Connie was a bit upset last night when we ended Dairy Sports. We are now rebranded into a strictly football hat. I'm assuming that Jesse's comment is going towards Wise Cheese here. But yeah, give us a follow on the Blitz. I also write for the Cards Wire, and be sure to check me and Caleb out every Wednesday night, as well as on Twitter at @StatStandoutsUSN.
As for me, hard count representing right now. Me and CJ doing that every Tuesday at 9. We switched it over from 10. Pleasure to be here. We got me and CJ. After I didn't realize it at first, but me and CJ get all the intriguing picks. We get a lot of intriguing picks in this draft, so I'm excited to get it underway. Gen Z Sports Monday, Backstop Banter Thursday. You've seen me before, probably. At least I hope so. I won't sit here too long. CJ, I'll throw it over to you.
Caleb, Sam, thank you guys for having me. It's my first time on the show, so glad to be here with my guy Connie, with my guy Matt, doing the draft, breaking down some really top prospects. So thanks again, Garda Podcast, everything NBA, and like Connie said, the hard count at 9 on Tuesdays.
Yeah, and with that being said, I am your commissioner, Matt Scura. A lot of you guys know me as Wise Cheese. Some people might even say Cowboy Cheese, but it's a name that'll be thrown in for another day. My Twitter handle is down below. Instagram at Matt_Scura20. And my very own podcast with my great friend Caleb Conant called MCS Real Sports Podcast. We've so far done 50 episodes, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it. We are available everywhere. So those are my plugs. And with that being said, welcome to the 2021 NFL mock draft. And with the first pick on the clock, we now have the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right. We've already kind of gone over who we were going to take at this number one spot. It was pretty difficult, but we are going to go ahead and send in our pick. It's coming over to you right now, Matt.
All right. All right. You all know what that means. That means the pick is in. And with the first overall pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson.
All right. Sam, you want to go ahead and explain our pick to the people out there listening?
Yeah, I mean this is pretty obvious. You know, Trevor Lawrence can change just about any franchise he joins. Gardner Minshew wasn't the answer. Nick Foles wasn't the answer at the time. Forked over $88 million. This is the new franchise guy. This is the face of Duval. We've got a guy in Trevor Lawrence who's the best prospect in the NFL draft.
Yes, sir. I'm excited to see, what Jacksonville is able to do in terms of, putting people around Trevor to be a successful team like they were back in 2017 when they, made it to the AFC Championship game and everything of that nature. Hopefully this is going to be, a staple for them to build around, a franchise quarterback like Sam said. But you guys have any thoughts, Anthony or CJ, before we move on to y'all's pick at number 2?
Connie, you want to go?
That's you got CJ. No, you got.
Yeah, I feel like it was a no-brainer. So many people talked about Trevor Lawrence going number 1 for years now. They brought in Urban Meyer, has done a pretty good job with quarterbacks in his coaching career. So it's the right fit, It's time. It's a winnable division, so we'll see how they fill out that roster around him, especially how he's not really that expensive right now. Very mobile, push the ball down the field. And he had a pretty solid pro day despite having the surgery. Well, before having the surgery on his labrum. So I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. It's just up to Cons and putting the right team, putting the right roster around him as he develops, as he grows. So a lot of questions to be answered, but I think in that division they can have a shot to be competitive.
Yeah, this is the least surprising or fun pick to make in the draft. I mean, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't go once, something went wrong. Terribly, terribly wrong. So from there, we'll move it on. I believe our pick has been sent in, so I'll give the floor to our commish.
Yeah, definitely. The second overall pick by the New York Jets has been sent in. And with the second pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the New York Jets select Zach Wilson, quarterback, BYU.
Yeah, trading away Sam Darnold, obviously, it just makes sense they're going to go quarterback here. Zach Wilson kind of jumped up the draft boards recently. That's all the rumors coming out of New York. Mobile, not the most amount of, I wouldn't say experience, but, maybe competition, things of that nature. There's always some questions. But, yeah, James Smith, punter. But, yeah, I think this is just the obvious pick for right now.
Yeah, it makes the most sense. Like you just said, they just traded Darnold. The hype around Wilson has really come along the last few months. Very mobile, can move out the pocket, make plays down the field, put BYU on the map. Not a big-time football team school. So, I think now with Mike LaFleur being there and being the offensive coordinator, I think that offense should be very creative. And they picked up some really big possession wide receivers. They have Denzel Mims, who they drafted last year, and you have Corey Davis now as well. So I think they have some nice weapons on the outside for Zach Wilson, and we'll see if Joe Douglas is that guy for the Jets for the future, being the GM.
Yeah, I think it's a good pickup. Obviously, trading away Sam Darnold, they're going to take a quarterback here at number 2. It's about who they're going to take. I like Zach Wilson a lot more than the rest of the quarterbacks that have been mentioned in the conversation for the number 2 pick for the Jets. He just brings a lot more to the table than say does a Justin Fields or a Mac Jones. He's just that next level or of quarterback that we're starting to see in the NFL. We see the throws that Patrick Mahomes is able to make. Zach Wilson can kind of do similar things that he can. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He is going to have some learning bumps in the road, but I think it's going to be a good pick for the Jets. Now it's all about the Jets to get it together as an organization and be able to put Zach Wilson in a successful area for him to succeed in his career.
Yeah, I mean, you guys both nailed it right there. They traded Darnold. They had to do this. Chris Sims was one of the analysts that had Zach Wilson as his QB1 over Trevor Lawrence, and I know Caleb just alluded to the amount of the various angles that Zach Wilson is able to throw the ball down the field at. His ability to throw the deep ball. His pro day, that ridiculous throw Daniel Jeremiah was commentating on, that went viral. And this pick makes a lot of sense. Now, what they need to do, and I've always been on the side, is they should have kept Darnold, but it made sense right now for them to trade him. They're in love with Zach Wilson. They need to do everything they can to give Zach Wilson the protection and the weapons, because they messed up with that on Darnold. They cannot do it again with Zach Wilson.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they definitely cannot. With that being said, we will move on to the 3rd overall pick, which is San Francisco 49ers. And this pick has been moved a lot. Watch from a commissioner standpoint, I originally thought it was going to be Miami. Then all hell went loose, and now it's the San Francisco 49ers. And the San Francisco 49ers, I believe, have sent their pick inside of the chat. And with the 3rd overall pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Mac Jones, quarterback, Alabama.
Wow. Okay.
All right, Sam. This was I was originally gonna take Fields, but I'll let Sam go ahead and talk about this because he was able to flip my mind on this one. So Sam, I'll let you lead it off.
So the reason why I picked Fields is Schefter came out the other day and said he'd be surprised at this point if the Niners pass up on Fields. Now, I think Fields had his Mac Jones. Fields had his pro day today, or his second one, or not his second one. He's holding a private workout with the 49ers. And I think Jimmy G has 2 years left, and there's a reason why his name's popping up for cut candidates, because his dead cap is only, 2.4, I think? And
right.
Next year it cuts in half. It's 1.8. And Mac Jones is far from being ready to start. I personally don't even think Mac Jones is first-round talent, but I went with this pick because I think that's what the Niners will do.
It makes sense, looking at it in the way that Jimmy G plays and the way they like to run their offense for it to be Mac Jones. Originally I was like, switch it up, get Justin Fields in there, a little bit more mobile quarterback, but that's not really their problem. They don't have a problem with Jimmy G not being able to run because they've got protection. They've got good running backs. They've got good wide receivers. They've got a good offense. Jimmy G just hasn't, pushed it to that next level that we've all expected him to do once he did leave New England and became the starter with the 49ers. And now you bring in Mac Jones, which he's not going to start right away unless they, get rid of Garoppolo. But I don't see that happening. And I think it's a great fit for Mac Jones to be behind Garoppolo to start his career and be able to progress and learn from a quarterback that learned under Tom Brady. So that can only benefit you later down the line. So I agree with this pick after, re-examining it. But what are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I think that they're going to end up going quarterback for sure. This is why they traded up for it. This is where the draft begins. I think 1 and 2 has been, solidified by now. Is it going to be Fields? Is it going to be Jones? I agree. I think it's going to be Jones. I don't, like I said, college, and this is going to sound bad because we're on Saturday Standouts. College isn't my biggest thing, so I kind of listen to you guys and listen to the people that get paid to do this. Some people aren't in love with Mac Jones. Some people are. But, what Caleb said is right. Quarterback is their problem because everything else is pretty good. They signed Trent Williams to that mega deal. They have like 65 running backs on the 49ers. They have some pretty solid wide receivers. So if they can just figure out their quarterback position, I think that they're going to be pretty good. And it's still pretty up in the air. I know that there's been some things that the head coach and GM are currently fighting about what quarterback they want to take. We're going to see who comes out on top on draft night, but I can absolutely see it happening. So I got no beef with it.
This is the most interesting pick just because we don't know who's going to be that third quarterback. Both two completely different styles. Mac Jones more in the pocket, dashing down the field with his accuracy. Justin Fields accurate in the pocket as well, but definitely more mobile. And so we'll see what Shanahan likes. I agree with everyone. I think both of those quarterbacks could definitely sit for a year, sit behind Garoppolo, learn the system. From our understanding, it's a very complex system to understand. So I think it'd be beneficial for both of those guys to sit and wait. But we've also seen some injury concern with Garoppolo. He's also had some health concerns. He's been in and out of the lineup since he's been a 49er. So hopefully we could potentially go with a guy who could go with a quarterback who's been on the offense that's maybe more pro ready, and that's why I think possibly Mac Jones could be that guy at 3.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see if that works out for the San Francisco 49ers' sake. And with the 4th pick, the team that is on the clock is the Atlanta Falcons, but they have already submitted their pick into the draft. And with the 4th pick in the 2021 Saturday Standouts NFL Mock Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Kyle Pitts, tight end, University of Florida.
CJ, you got it.
Yeah, just adding more fuel to the fire on that Atlanta offense. You look at Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones. We saw the relationship Matt Ryan had with Tony Gonzalez a few years back towards the end of his career. I think that'd be very beneficial. He's not going to walk into a situation where he has to be the guy, the primary pass catcher. He's probably going to get a lot of one-on-ones because you have to double Julio and you have to account for Calvin Ridley as well. So very, very special. Had a phenomenal year in Florida last year. He's a beast. All of the experts have come out and said he's been their highest grade tight end in years, maybe since Vernon Davis. So I think he's very talented. Going to a team like Atlanta, we look at John Smith had a pretty solid career with Arthur Smith there. They're going to run the ball, do some play actions. So off that play action, I definitely see the tight end being able to get open. So he should have a really good special rookie season in Atlanta if he gets drafted there.
Yeah, the Falcons need defensive help, but this is a Falcons move, and that's what I expect it to be. In my head, I kind of also want to go quarterback for them in this spot, especially if Fields falls to them here and he's not picked by the Niners, which doesn't look like it will be. I don't know. I can see either one of those happening. I could also see, them taking somebody on the defensive side, but this feels like such an Atlanta move to just get more firepower from Matt Ryan. I believe that even though they changed a lot of his money into a signing bonus, it also made his dead cap space more for the next coming year. So it's not like they can cut him. I don't think that anybody would want to trade for that contract. So you might as well just make him even better than he already, can be. Julio, Calvin Ridley, Gurley's still there. I can't think of their tight end at the moment.
Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, Hayden Hurst he's not bad. Like he's honestly not bad, but you're gonna add Kyle Pitts to that and have a nice little duo. So I think it can happen.
Yeah, I like this pick as well, and I was a little bit surprised that you did pass up on Fields. Bringing him back to his hometown, Atlanta. The new GM, I want to say, was from the Saints front office. He had kind of alluded to in one of his first press conferences that Matt Ryan wasn't going to be around for much longer. He might have been expecting him to retire. I think he's coming up on 36 now, if I'm not mistaken. But Kyle Pitts, I think he's arguably a top 3 prospect in this draft. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say his measurements at his pro day were like record breaking, if I remember correctly. Because you're getting a guy that Hayden Hurst isn't bad, but you're also getting a guy that can line up as both a tight end and a wide receiver. Doesn't excel much as a blocker, but you're getting a guy that is very versatile, and that would be a very, very scary Atlanta Falcons offense.
Yeah, taking a quarterback here, it's definitely in question for them because Matt Ryan is not getting any younger, and he just, does typical Matt Ryan stuff. He puts up numbers, but doesn't necessarily win. That's not, in part of all his fault, but, does go on the quarterback a lot of the time. Would it be interesting to see them take Justin Fields here? Absolutely. But, Kyle Pitts here makes a ton of sense because they love their offense. I mean, one thing you could say about Atlanta is they love their offense. They love to have it go in lethal and fast and, score. And so that's what they're going to try and do is outscore you. They're not going to try and play the defense side of the ball as much. And then you add Kyle Pitts to the weapons they already have in Calvin Ridley's, Hayden Hurst. You have Julio Jones. Todd Gurley, we don't know if he's going to be in Atlanta next year or not. But Ito Smith showed flashes that he was able to kind of pick up when Todd Gurley wasn't in last year at the running back position. So to make that offense even more lethal is going to be good for them, especially if they're just going to stay on the track of we're going to try and score more points than you, and that's going to be it. You take Kyle Pitts, and he is a freak of nature. You can line him up in a 2 tight end formation with Hayden Hurst on the other side, or you can line him up at wide receiver. So he's a very lethal threat. He's probably one of the biggest freaks of nature that we've seen come in the NFL draft in quite some time when it comes to pure just athleticism as a whole. He's just ridiculous. It's not just one thing. He just excels at it all. So I think it's a good pickup there for the Falcons.
Yeah, it definitely is. We'll see if it will be able to work for them on the offensive side of things, and we'll see how they'll approach the rest of the draft if they do take Pitts at number 4. And with the 5th overall pick, the Cincinnati Bengals have already submitted their pick. And with that being said, the Cincinnati Bengals select Penei Sewell, offensive tackle, Oregon.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. Keep Joe Burrow clean. Whatever you can do to keep Joe Burrow clean, you got to do. I know there's been talk about Joe maybe pushing to go and get Jamar Chase, his former teammate at LSU. I don't think that's the best for them because they do have weapons on the outside. They've got, pretty solidified guys at those positions. Even at running back, they're good. You need help on the offensive line. We saw what happened last season midway through where his knee just completely buckled. He was destroyed. And that's because he was running for his life on pretty much every play. Protect his blind side. Do not let the defensive line, pass rushers get into that backfield. And Penei Sewell is the perfect player for that. He has solidified himself as the best offensive tackle prospect in this draft based off of his career in college. I know some people might, say there's a guy over at Northwestern that could be able to fill his spot as the number 1 overall offensive tackle in Rashawn Slater. But we're going to stick here with Penei Sewell. I think it's a smart move. You've seen what he's been able to do over his career. He's played both inside and outside on that offensive line. I think it's a great pickup for the Cincinnati Bengals because you drafted a franchise quarterback. Now it's time to draft somebody to keep that franchise quarterback clean in the pocket. So I don't think, you could go anywhere else if you're the Cincinnati Bengals in this case.
Yeah, and if you look at the history of the offensive line with the Bengals, Andy Dalton was running for his life when he was in Cincinnati. They need to protect their quarterback. You need 2 tackles, and Jonah Williams is one of them who unfortunately missed his rookie season with the torn labrum. I want to say he's going into his 3rd year now at Alabama. Penei Sewell is an animal. And I'd be interested to see if there are any teams from ours, we've got Justin Fields still on the board. So I'm very curious to see if any teams start calling for that number 5 pick to see if Fields is there, because I think Cincinnati can still afford to potentially trade down for more draft capital and go for a guy in Rashawn Slater at the bottom of the top 10. But I love this pick as well.
Yeah, I think this is another easy pick. Not as easy as the 1st overall pick, but it's up there as well. I mean, it's either going to be Slater or Sewell. Depending on who you are, depends on who you draft. But you guys, hit the nail on the head. Believe it or not, the Bengals are kind of good at the on the offensive side of the ball. They have Mixon, they have Burrow, Boyd, some other
Higgins.
Yeah, T. Higgins. I always forget his name, bro. God, is that annoying. But so they're actually kind of good on that side. You just actually have to make sure that Burrow can survive a full season. And with that offensive line, he clearly can't. And plus, it makes Joe Mixon better, which can probably make the entire team better. So, easy pick. Love it.
Yeah, have to protect Burrow, like you guys said. I mean, if they go anywhere other than tackle, it's just like, what are they doing? Zach Taylor coming from the Rams, seeing Andrew Whitworth hold it down on that left side for so many years. I think they go Sewell, extremely athletic, opted out last season because of the COVID situation. So I'm interested to see what he's improved on, his technique and things like that as he goes to Cincinnati. Be a great move.
Yeah, definitely a big move by the Cincinnati Bengals. Hopefully, it will pay off really well for them. And we move on to the 6th pick in the NFL draft, which is the Miami Dolphins. And the Miami Dolphins have made their selection. With the 6th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jamar Chase, wide receiver, LSU.
Yeah, so very tough, obviously.
Yeah,
very tough. Obviously, you have the two Alabama wideouts Tua has a relationship with, and Waddle and Devontae Smith. But look at the year before, Jamar Chase had just as great of a season as Devontae Smith last year. So just physical at the release, catches everything. Him and Burrow had a phenomenal connection. I think for a guy like Tua, he needs a guy on the outside that he could trust. Devontae Parker's been he's good, but he's been inconsistent at times, also in and out the lineup due to health concerns. So get a reliable guy on the outside with Gesicki there at tight end. Hopefully they can figure out the running back situation as well. I like Jamar Chase. He had a phenomenal pro day earlier last week, so I like the move. I think it's going to be great. And with Connie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that this is the position they go, to say the least. If, like I said, this is another one where depending on the person is going to depend on who you pick. So I like Chase in this spot. I would put him, up, number one. So I have no problems with it. Obviously, me and CJ agreed on it, but I think that this is more of a prove it to a move than anything. They're going to try to find out if they have the right quarterback. You'll have Gesicki, you'll have Devontae Parker. They brought in Will Fuller. If Tua can't work with that, we got other problems in the world. So they're going to try to find out if Tua is the correct quarterback. They'll bring in Jamar Chase, give him, this season to find out. And then if he's bad, maybe next year they're looking for a quarterback. But I think that this is the right pick.
Yeah, I think Miami sits in an interesting situation here. I brought up on my podcast, maybe this is from a fantasy standpoint because I'm just very frustrated having Mike Gesicki on my team all the time, being inconsistent. How about Kyle Pitts with the 6th overall pick? And the problem with their wide receiver room is they signed Will Fuller. One, he's only in a 1-year deal, and their entire wide receiver room, we've seen plenty of flashes, but I wouldn't say it's enough to really solidify a true number one wideout. So I like this Jamar Chase pick as well.
I think if the Dolphins are smart, they take Jamar Chase, but do I think they have a little influence from Tua in this pick? Absolutely. And that's where I think, you get the Alabama connection with either Waddle or Smith in that situation. But I think the smart pick here for them is to go Chase. He is the best wide receiver in my book in this draft. So I have no problem with them taking them right there at number 6.
Yeah, he definitely is. It's definitely a good option there for the Miami Dolphins just to see if they can see what Tua Tagovailoa can do, to see if he can improve upon the season which he had last year. And we move on to the 7th overall pick, the Detroit Lions, and the Detroit Lions have made their pick. With the 7th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Detroit Lions select Devontae Smith, wide receiver, Alabama.
So originally we were going Chase. We kind of got thrown off there with the pick made prior to us by the Miami Dolphins. And so we had the, kind of maneuver around here because we initially assumed place an Alabama wide receiver with the Alabama quarterback, and that's how it's going to go. And a lot of people have Smith as their number one guy still. So there's 3 wide receivers you could say have the ability to be the number 1 overall receiver drafted in this draft. But here with the Detroit Lions, they just did get Jared Goff. They lost both of their wide receivers. They lost Galladay and they lost Marvin Jones Jr. So they're in need of help there on the outside. correct me if I'm wrong, Sam. I think their only wide receiver that is maybe of mention of name is Quintez Cephas.
They signed Tyrell Williams as well.
Tyrell Williams,
1 year
but
deal,
you know,
but yeah.
Right. Not a whole lot, name worthy there. You need somebody who's going to be able to make plays for you. And I think a wide receiver like Devontae Smith fits that mold for what Jared Goff was able to do even when he was in LA and what he's best at. And that's not the deep ball. He's not good at that. He's good on accurate short passes. And being able to put, Devontae Smith in an area of space where his offensive coordinator can just get him in space and get him the ball, then Devontae Smith can do his thing. I think it's a good pickup. It's going to help out Jared Goff as long as he's able to, keep up his confidence heading to a new team now that he's not in LA. He should be able to do okay. I'm still not very confident in this team doing a great job or having a great record come this next season, but Devontae Smith is a move in the right direction for him.
Yeah, I think you can expect the Lions to be the second pick in 2022 behind the Houston Texans. But, yeah, I mean, I like this pick as well. I know you and I kind of, discussed Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle. Devontae Smith makes sense. And I'll be honest with you, Quintez Cephas played a lot more than I had expected. And I think next year you can expect a lot more of Quintez Cephas. Tyrell Williams only on a 1 year deal. And you'd mentioned Jared Goff, we don't see a ton of the deep ball. Devontae Smith is a yards after catch guy. Both Smith and Waddle were big on those at Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Goff's going from the Sunshine State or whatever California is to Detroit. So he's downgrading in every way of his life. That includes the receivers that he's working with. I mean, he went from Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods to I can't even say the guy's name. So, you know what, Sam, you got it. I think that a wide receiver here is the obvious pick once again. And then, it depends on who's off the board. If the Dolphins actually do take Chase, then I think Smith is right. I mean, are you surprised if Waddle goes here? No. If the Dolphins picked one of those other guys, are you surprised if Chase goes here? No. But easy, good pick.
Yeah, Smith splashed on the scene as soon as Waddle went down with the ankle injury. He just stepped it up and really turned up. It was really the catalyst as to why Alabama ultimately won the national championship. I mean, he was putting up 200-yard games. Look at the national championship game at 200 yards in the first half. So after he got hurt, just imagine the numbers he would have put up had he stayed in that game. So like Sam said, definitely a yak guy. Definitely, that's definitely what Jared Goff needs. They just lost Galladay and Marvin Jones in the offseason. So it's imperative for them to go wide receiver at 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely is. We'll see if Detroit can somehow improve from being a bottom dweller to maybe a third-place team. And we move on to the 8th overall pick in the 2021 mock draft, and the Carolina Panthers have made their selection. With the 8th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Carolina Panthers select Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle, Northwestern.
Connie, you want to go?
No, CJ, this is you.
Well, yes, playoff bound. I mean, gotta get some more pieces over there in Carolina, but I think it's start with a guy like Slater. You have to protect Sam Darnold, who they just acquired via trade. Definitely one of him and Sewell is neck and neck for one of the top tackles coming out the draft this year. So very physical. Had a great year last year, and you look at that division, who has a multitude of pass rushers. Got to be able to protect that guy that's going to be on the center. So I like Slater at 8. And it makes the most sense for Carolina, especially after the trade this week.
Yeah, a slight disagreement, me and CJ. It's fine. These things happen. We're in the draft room. So
war room, man.
Yeah, the war room. I still don't hate the pick, even though it's not the one that I was personally going with. Especially because they traded for Sam, so that dropped them out of the quarterback market, which I think a lot of people before that trade obviously thought that they were going to be a part of. But with that being said, is protect Sam. It's kind of a Joe Burrow situation. Slater is obviously the 1A or 1B, depending on if you like him or Sewell more. If he's here, I think the Panthers could possibly take him. help create some holes for CMC, help protect Sam Darnold, and get that offense up and running.
Sorry, go ahead. Okay. The Panthers have been pretty active this offseason, right? They went out and signed Hassan Reddick, who came off a breakout season with the Cardinals. They also went out and signed Pat Eiflin. So I like this pick. They especially protecting your quarterback. And Rashawn Slater's the guy that Caleb and I have really, really been high on. A lot of other guys have been high on, and Daniel Jeremiah is one of them. I think he might even have him as his OT1. And the margin between him and Sewell, I feel like isn't that far off, but I'm definitely going Sewell because I think Slater's a top 10 prospect. But the Panthers are building for the future, and if you really look at the NFC South, I can totally see the Saints missing the playoffs. And, the Panthers could be a playoff team in a few years because they're really, really building towards a promising future.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of you guys. I don't think, the gap between Sewell and Slater is that wide of a margin for you to be, that worried about it here in the first 10 picks. And, like you guys have said, the Carolina Panthers, they already have a pretty solid team. They just got to add some pieces, some depth, get some more guys in there, which they have, kind of addressed here in free agency period as well. So why not just bolster that spot to protect your quarterback, whether it's Teddy Bridgewater or Sam Darnold, no matter which direction you decide to go in, you're going to need that. And it all starts in the trenches. We all know that, in the NFL, whatever level you're playing at, even in college, it all starts in the trenches. If you don't have, those guys up front that are going to be able to do what they're supposed to do and be able to protect or get back to the, on the opposite side of the ball, get back to the quarterback, then you're not going to have very much success on that side of the ball because that's where it starts. And that's a good pickup for them. Rashawn Slater going to the Panthers. I'm pretty sure Josh is going to be pretty happy with that pick if that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. You got to help out Sam Darnold. And, we'll see if the Carolina Panthers can make big improvements with that pick. With that being said, we'll move on to the 9th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, which has been submitted. And with the 9th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Micah Parsons, linebacker, Penn State.
I like this pick a lot, and I'm still on the side of Micah Parsons is arguably a top 10. I think you could argue top 5, top 7 prospect. The thing that, Caleb and I talked about a few weeks back when we were discussing linebackers, is one, I want to say, Caleb, you had quoted a college football analyst that, said he was overrated, and I had said a big reason part of that is because of his opt-out. And I think there's very few players in this draft that opted out that don't have anything left to prove. There's Micah Parsons, Trevor Lawrence could have opted out, Jamar Chase, and Penei Sewell. And last trade deadline, Von Miller was on the trade block. And if I remember correctly, I think he also had some off-field issues. I don't recall what it was. So, I mean, this is a promising build to build towards the future. If they hadn't signed Kyle Fuller, I think Caleb and I would have maybe discussed the cornerback position, maybe someone like Pat Surtain. But this is a deep secondary class, so I think they can maybe even, build depth on that in the later rounds. But I like this pick a lot.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, they need help in the linebacker arena of things, getting back to the quarterback. The linebackers they have, they're okay. I mean, you do have geez, I'm blanking on it.
Bradley Chubb. Yeah,
I mean, they got Bradley Chubb. They also have
Von Miller.
Von Miller. There we go. That's who I was thinking about, Von Miller. But Von Miller's not getting any younger. He's not going to have the seasons that we are used to him having, that he was able to have in the past. You need to be able to reassure that if you are to get rid of him at some point, or in case of an injury or anything, you supply yourself with a good rush. Micah Parsons tested out of the waters at his pro day. The only concerns that really come into play for Micah Parsons are his off-field things that he's got going on. There's some question marks surrounding that, and his attitude, and is he mature enough, and all of this. But once you get into a locker room and in the NFL, usually you have guys surrounded you that are going to be able to hold you accountable for those things. But we'll see when it comes to that. But I think Micah Parsons is a great fit, especially on a Denver Broncos team that prioritizes their defense over their offense most years. So I think it's a good pick for them here at the number 9 spot.
This is the first pick that I'm shocked by. This is the first one I even might disagree with, only because of all the things that I've heard coming out about the Broncos wanting a quarterback. Fields is still there. I think if he is, they would take him. I think that they even might try to trade up in the draft with Atlanta to take him.
Can I go ahead?
I'm a little surprised, but with that being said, I also don't hate it. Parsons is completing the defense. He's that last piece. They might have the best secondary in the NFL now after, with the addition of Fuller. They brought over a lot of people last season as well. So you put with Parsons, with Von Miller and Chubb, you're looking at a very, very solid defense. And then, maybe you hope that Drew Lock keeps improving and the offense comes back. Because, they were banged up last year. They had a lot of injuries over on the offensive side. So little shocked. Don't hate it, though.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if did you make your point?
No, go ahead. You were going to say. Yeah, but.
So the quarterback position is obviously in question for the Broncos, but I guess my issue with the quarterback, in at least drafting one, I think they would have been off better, signing Fitzpatrick. I, for one, said they should have traded for Matthew Stafford, but now he's on the Rams. Even Sam Darnold. You're trading up, or you're selecting Justin Fields, who, in my opinion, is not ready to start. So you're drafting a guy who's ready to start or not ready to start versus rolling with Drew Lock, who we don't even know. He hasn't proven enough to be a starter. I think they need I don't think Denver's in a position to be drafting a bridge quarterback. I think they should have gone after, is Alex Smith playing next year? Because it would be really cool to see Alex Smith be another Ryan Fitzpatrick 2.0. But they should have went after Darnold. They should have went after Fitzpatrick. Right. Teddy Bridgewater's on the market. Gardner Minshew's on the market. There's quarterbacks in the NFL that are on the market that I think they should go after. And even I think bringing in Minshew or even someone like Teddy Bridgewater to compete with Drew Lock will be better for, a rookie than bringing in a rookie quarterback, someone like Justin Fields or Trey Lance.
Yeah, Parsons, definitely top 10 talent. I think it makes the most sense. Vic Fangio, obviously, defensive head coach, sideline to sideline backer. Look at during his time in Chicago, Roquan Smith, similar type of play style. I agree with Sam as well. They should probably go the veteran route. At quarterback, there's still some pretty solid options there. They just haven't been able to figure out that quarterback position since Peyton Manning retired. And before that, since Elway, they had Cutler for a little bit, but they just haven't been able to find that consistency. So with that, still you could improve the defense for now, especially in a division that has two studs and Herbert and Mahomes. And Derek Carr is a pretty good quarterback as well. So I like the move for Parsons. I'm going to Denver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely good move made by Denver with the 9th pick, helping improve the defense, and we'll see if that can help them make the playoffs or if they'll be stuck in the same purgatory that they've been the last 4 years. And we now move on to the 10th pick, which is the Dallas Cowboys, and the pick is in. And with the 10th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Patrick Surtain, defensive back, Alabama.
Definitely a key need for Dallas. Pairing him up with a teammate last year, Trevon Diggs, on that side of the ball. They definitely need some help. They had one of the worst defenses last year in the NFL, historically bad. So I'm getting a guy like Surtain, pretty physical. Alabama, Nick Saban does a great job of coaching these DBs. The list could go on and on. I could go through a whole bunch of names that over the years coming out of Alabama. So in that division as well, got Galladay now, got McLaurin. We'll see what the Eagles do at 12. But you're going to need a lockdown guy over there. And the offense, with Dak there, should be very dynamic, but you still have to be able to make stops in football. So if they could get that guy on one side of the ball to kind of take away that number one receiver, it's gonna do great for Dallas. So Surtain is in his blood too. His dad played football. It was pretty good. So I think it's a good move for the Cowboys.
Yeah, like you said, CJ, their defense is just god awful. I would not be surprised if the Cowboys pull something and try to move up in the draft. There's been a lot of rumblings coming out of Jerry falling in love with Kyle Pitts. That would also be a very Dallas move, even though they need to improve the defense. They'll just go offense once again. But like CJ said, you got to stop somebody eventually. They got to try to shore up the defense, and they got to try and hope that Surtain can do that. So I think this should be an easy pick for them. We'll see if the Cowboys try to make it interesting on draft night, though.
Go ahead, Caleb.
Yeah, Sam and I have had Patrick Surtain sitting at 10 forever. It feels like we started off our first mock draft with Patrick Surtain there at 10 with the Cowboys, and then we kind of moved them around a little bit because there's some rumors going around and things of that nature, and some draft stock falling, some draft stock going up. So it was very interesting to see where we were eventually going to take him, but ultimately I think we both agreed that he would end up here at number 10 to the Dallas Cowboys. You put him opposite of Diggs, who is just getting off of his first year as a starting cornerback in the NFL. So you're going to have two, young guys. They're going to take their lumps. Diggs took his lumps last year, so he'll be a little bit more polished when it comes to the position. He's going to be healthy to start next season. But they need help in the passing game when it comes to their defense. They were passed on all year last year. Everybody was able to get past them. And, to be able to shore that up with a surefire number one cornerback in Patrick Surtain, who has done nothing but prove throughout his entire college career at the University of Alabama that he can cover the number one on any team, man-to-man. That's a great pickup there for Dallas. I just hope they don't, F it up and just totally pick something that's wrong here, because at this point, this is the only pick that you really need to make here at the number 10.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think there's one guy that they could look at in Rashawn Slater, but he's already off our board. Chidobe, they've lost two of their top corners in the past 2-3 seasons. Byron Jones to the Dolphins. They just lost Chidobe Awuzie to the Bengals. And now their number one corner right now is Trayvon Diggs. So you draft Surtain, the best corner in the draft. I don't think he's getting talked about enough right now. We're seeing a lot of J.C. Horn. I'm not so sure why. We're seeing a little bit of, draft stock falling of Surtain. I'm guessing that might be the value of, which team values this position more than others. But, you got that Alabama duo, and, Dan Quinn's your DC now. And you're bringing in Keanu Neal, two former Falcons, one of them being Keanu Neal. So they could go several places, but I think, tackle, but Slater's off the board. So I think corner has to come next year.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what the Cowboys can do. But if there's one thing that's for certain that everybody knows, what can go wrong will go wrong. So we'll see what Dallas does. And with that being said, let's move on to the 11th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft. With that 11th pick, the New York Giants will select Kwity Paye, edge rusher, Michigan.
Yeah, there's two ways that the Giants can go in their draft. They can go offensive line or they can go defensive line. Those are the two areas that they need help on. They need help getting to the quarterback. They also need help protecting their quarterbacks. So there's multiple directions they could go. I think, after seeing the, top two tackles and top three tackles maybe go off the board to this point, you kind of, put your chips later on in the draft and see if you can pick up a guy who's going to be serviceable, because there's guys out there, there's guys out there that are going to be good offensive tackles in the NFL. Not great, but good enough to be able to, start in the NFL. It's a deep class, but it's top heavy. It's still deep though. But so you look at the other side of the ball when it comes to the New York Giants, and they have not been able to get pressure on their quarterbacks. They've got the middle push, right? We all know they've got the middle push there on the defensive line. They need help on the outsides. I think Kwity Paye, having the experience of playing inside and outside, you can be able to stunt him and move him in different directions. He's a baller. He has a great, motor to go along with it. He's been able to put up not, huge numbers, but good numbers. And he just looks like an athletic freak. The way he was able to pop upon the scene his past year and the year before that, and all the hype that was surrounding him. It stuck with him even through the pro day aspects of things and leading up into the NFL draft. So I think it's a good pickup here for the New York Giants.
Yeah, and we've had multiple conversations about who is the number one edge rusher. I mean, everyone coming into the season was Gregory Rousseau. I had Kwity Paye at 2. I personally think Kwity Paye is the best edge rusher in this draft. Some people even have Jalen Phillips. And some people even have Azeez Ojulari. The edge rusher one it's wide open, and because of the opt out of Gregory Rousseau, you saw so many other guys really show out, and even Jalen Phillips. Gregory Rousseau's opt out helped a guy like Jalen Phillips. Unfortunately, hurt the draft stock of Quincy Roche. But if you look at the defense, they show a lot of promise. We saw a lot of promise in the Giants defense. They don't have any edge depth, and Caleb nailed it right there. They struggle to get pressure on the quarterback, and Kwity Paye is an athletic freak. He's versatile. We've seen him line up on the inside. We saw him beat up Tristan Wirfs last year when Wirfs was at Iowa, beat him out on the inside, and he is violent with his hands at times as well. I love this pick.
Yeah, the Giants need help getting to the quarterback. It's pretty simple. They haven't had much of a pass rush recently. They're kind of another team that's good in a lot of positions. Obviously, on offense, you just signed. I'm going to forget his name now. The Lions wide receiver,
Kenny Galladay.
Galladay, thank you. They signed Galladay. They still have Evan Ingram. They still have Darius Slayton. So they're good on that side. You have Saquon Barkley.
Signed Kyle Rudolph.
Right. Yeah, they signed Kyle Rudolph. They're obviously not going to give up on Daniel Jones just yet. They're good at cornerback for the moment, and I mean they just need someone to actually get to the quarterback because their corners are doing the job. So I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, great pick. Surprisingly, had a pretty good defense, pretty solid defense towards the end of the year for New York. They were in some games. There were definitely some. I mean, they went 6-10, but a lot of those losses were by maybe a possession or so. So just shoring up that D line with Leonard Williams, just gave him an extension. I think that'd be a great move for New York.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see how much the Giants will improve, especially with them winning 6 games last year. Let's see if they could bump it up to maybe 7 or 8 and see if they could give the NFC least a run for their money. With that being said, we will move on to the 12th overall pick, which is the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Philadelphia Eagles have had quite an interesting draft going from 6 to 12. And with that being said, their pick is in. With the 12th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Jalen Waddle, wide receiver, Alabama.
Yeah, I think that this is another pretty easy pick for the Eagles. They need skill position players, to say the least. They have their quarterback now, hopefully, with Jalen Hurts there. I think that they like their running backs right now, and I don't think you would draft one this high if you were them anyway. Wide receiver is just easy for them. I mean, it's a bunch of random people like Travis Fulgham playing the wide receiver position for them. It seems like everybody's getting hurt for them. I don't think that they obviously don't have Aguilar anymore. They don't have Jeffrey anymore. They don't have Deshaun Jackson anymore. I mean, you have to, in order to see if Jalen Hurts is actually your quarterback, you're gonna have to give him some type of weapon to actually throw to and prove that he can actually play in the league. So I think it's a pretty easy pick for them. And with the other 2 wide receivers off the board, I think you just pick the best one available. And at this time, is Waddle.
Yeah, Waddle was, for a time, the number 1 guy over there in Alabama before Smith. Kid burst on the scene. Very speedy guy. Can push the ball down the field, get yards after the catch. I think it's a perfect situation for Jalen Hurts. He has a relationship with Jalen Hurts as well, even though Jalen Hurts was a little bit older and Waddle was a freshman. But they have some rapport together. Like Connie just said, Philadelphia, they need some wide receiver, they need some consistency at that position, and we'll see what Nick Sirianni does at his first time as being a head coach. He had T.Y. Hilton for a little bit, who's could, push the ball down the field as well. So I like the move. I like the move for them, and they have to if they believe in Jalen Hurts, you got to put some weapons around them, and this is definitely the start.
Yeah, I think this pick makes the most sense. They lost Deshaun Jackson to the Rams. They lost Alshon. They cut Alshon Jeffrey. And, let's say you have Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith on the board. And I guess I would personally take Jalen Waddle because they already have, an undersized, speedy guy in Jalen Reagor. Jalen Waddle is a nice complement to Jalen Reagor. And, more of a yards after catch machine, I think that was Jalen Waddle. And before his ankle injury, I think you could argue he was playing like the best receiver in the country before his ankle injury. So I think this pick makes the most sense as well.
It 100% does make the most sense. I mean, they need help. They need help at the wide receiver position. I mean, they were able to get away with it for a short time period last season with Fulgham and Deshaun Jackson when he wasn't suspended or hurt. And whoever else they had. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey didn't play at all last year. So it's difficult because you ultimately want a big guy to be able to complement, the Jalen Reagor type, but Waddle can play big at the same time. He can go up and get the ball when he needs to. He's actually my number 2 wide receiver. Sam and I have been high on him all year, so right behind Chase is where I have Waddle. I don't have Devontae Smith as high, but we did pick him earlier to the Dolphins, he went to the Dolphins. No, Lions, Detroit. But I just think that's just based off of a surrounding pressure of momentum behind Devontae Smith and what he was able to do once Waddle did go out for the season. So Waddle here at 12, is a great pickup for the Philadelphia Eagles. It should help Hurts tremendously, especially since they'll have a little bit of rapport with each other. They both understand of how to be professionals because they went through Nick Saban's offense and the demands that Nick Saban provides them. Now it's up to the Eagles to be able to, force that on them, be like, hey, we got to put this together again because we just fell off a cliff. Let's put this together. Let's improve our offense of where it was. They've still got Ertz. They've still got Goddard. Maybe one of them leaves at some point, gets traded during the season. We'll see what happens with that. But I think Waddle is a perfect pickup to help a very depleted wide receiver group there in Philadelphia.
Yeah, he definitely does help. We'll see if the Eagles could actually get it right or if Howie Roseman will make another shit draft pick, which he likes to do a lot. And with that being said, we move on to the 13th pick in the NFL draft, which is the Los Angeles Chargers. And they are on the clock with their pick. And with that being said, if the Chargers are at the 13th pick, if you guys are the Los Angeles Chargers, who do you think could be some of their options that they could go with, knowing the kind of offseason that they've had so far, bringing in guys like an All-Pro and Corey Linsley? Do you think they go with the defense to try and help improve, or do you think they might go with another offensive weapon to try and help a guy out like Justin Herbert?
I think the pick is in, Kamish.
Yes, sir. Indeed, it is. With the 13th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle, Virginia Tech.
Protect these young quarterbacks that are supposed to be your franchise. We keep saying it over and over again. That's what you got to do. Now, if it's up to these teams to be able to do it, but I'm hoping they're going to be smart here. And the Chargers, if they're smart, they're going to take an offensive tackle to protect Herbert. You've got the weapons on offense. You've got defense. I know you have the defense to be able to play, especially when Derwin James comes back from his injury and things of that nature if he can stay healthy. But offensive line is where they need the most. There's plenty of times, like we saw Joe Burrow doing, that Herbert was doing the same thing, having to run outside the pocket. Yeah, dude throws a damn dime outside of the pocket, but you don't want him doing that on a snap-by-snap basis. You can't have that happening. Christian Darrisaw turned in one of the best performances last season from an offensive tackle that we have seen in quite some time. Highest grade overall. He just moves people. He is a big-bodied man. He moves people out of the way. He doesn't let them get back to the quarterback. The only question mark that really comes to mind when it comes to Christian Darrisaw is his mentality. Is he going to be able to get mean and rough when it comes to going up against these NFL defensive linemen? Because that's going to be the challenge. If you're going to be a soft demeanor type player, it's not going to work when it comes to the NFL. It's not the ACC anymore. ACC's got good defensive lines. I get it, but they're not the NFL defensive lines where you're going up against star players who are stunning, star linebackers who are stunning, or bringing in a late blitz or anything like that. You got to be ready for these things. You can't have a soft demeanor because these guys are going to come in there and bull rush you. They're just going to try and take you off your feet. But if he's proven anything this past season, it's that he's able to move people around. And if he's, consistent with that, it'll be a good fit there in LA.
I like this pick. In fact, but then again, I also hate this pick because in my head, I was hoping that he would be there for the Vikings, which is our next pick. So he threw a little wrench into the system. But I like this for the Chargers. We said it. They signed Corey Linsley, so they're already trying to shore up the offensive line, and this is just another step in doing it. We obviously know that they're set. Like, the Chargers are good coaching away from being a Super Bowl team. Like, I think people really forget that because, look at their team. They're Noah's Ark of the NFL. They literally have two of everything. Or at least they did until Melvin Gordon left for the running back position. But you got Herbert now, you got Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Their defense is loaded, and like Caleb said before, I'm praying to the football gods and anybody that will listen that you let Derwin James please just get through a season healthy. But protect Herbert, and I really think this team can go far. They're a sneaky team in the NFL. They've been down the past few years, but I really attribute it to coaching, not being able to win in the clutch situations. But I love this pick for them.
Yeah, agree with both of you guys. Got to protect the young guys. When you have that guy in the center for the foreseeable future, the key thing is getting that left tackle. We talked about that with Burrow. As well earlier in the show. So Darrisaw's a really good pick. Caleb talked about it's going to have that mean streak. He has to have that mean streak. You got Von Miller in that division. He's going to play nasty. He's going to come at you. So they're going to try to test him. So hopefully he's that guy for them. Offensively, they're good. They're set. So if they shore up that O-line, it's just going to continue to be successful for the Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely will be. And let's also hear from Sam. Sam, you guys selected Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. What went into this decision?
Sorry, my internet cut out here. But yeah, Caleb and I, we immediately went to the offensive line for this team. You could go wide receiver. I don't think they've re-signed Mike Williams yet. They lost Hunter Henry to the New England Patriots, but you need to protect your quarterback. And they also signed Chase Daniel, and the Lions were shopping Chase Daniel. One of the big reasons why is because Chase Daniel was a quarterback that, was known to be a good mentor for the younger guys, and they need depth. And the Chargers are also the team that have taken two of our offensive linemen from my Green Bay Packers, Brian Bulaga and Corey Linsley. I guess mine and Matt's Green Bay Packers, but if you want to talk about draft risers, outside of Kadarius Toney, I think Christian Darrisaw is one of the biggest offensive draft risers in this year's NFL draft. And, throughout the season, I had mentioned this when we were talking about the ACC and Virginia Tech's game during the season. His Pro Football Focus grade, like pass blocking, I think both run and pass blocking were like low 90s. Like they were in like the 90, 91 area. So he screams consistency, and he's a powerhouse.
Yeah, he definitely is a powerhouse. Let's hopefully see if that powerhouse can translate into some success for the Chargers, or if they will keep on doing the Charger way and find a way to lose close games. With that being said, we will move on to the 14th pick in the mock draft, which is the Minnesota Vikings, and they have made their selection. With the 14th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Jaylene Phillips, defensive lineman, Miami. To you.
So, yeah, he's definitely impressing people. He's had a lot of talks after his pro day. Look at like Russo obviously was the primary guy on that defensive line last year. Minnesota, they need some help on defense. Mike Zimmer is a defensive-minded head coach. They struggled last year. Didn't really work out with Ngakoue. Then Everson Griffin ultimately had left the team as well. So if they could get a guy on that D line, look at Mike Zimmer when he had Dunlap and he had Geno Atkins during his days in Cincinnati. So if they could get a guy that could rush the passer, get to Aaron Rodgers, get to Goff, I think that'd be something that they could spark. They could start and then make an impact, and then eventually work their way in terms of the secondary and other places on that defense.
Yeah, like I said, you guys kind of threw the wrench into my system of picking Darisaw. I was hoping he was there for the Vikings. You could have went another offensive lineman here, but like CJ said, they need help on the D-line. I think it's a big thing. You can also look at the safety position because they lost their starting safety to the Eagles. But I think you shore up the D-line, and like CJ said, it's a defensive coach. It's Mike Zimmer. I think this is what just happens.
Yeah, sorry, we're trying to figure some things out. Yeah, I like to pick Minnesota needs help on the defensive edge there. They're trying to rebuild what they have. They got rid of pieces, and they just need help, and, you could have gone with maybe an outside linebacker / edge hybrid there and like a Jason Owe. But, an edge and Jalen Phillips is not a bad pickup at all. He was the star that was shining in that Miami defensive end barrage that they had going on there before Gregory Rousseau opted out. They also had, what's his name? The Temple transfer, Quincy Roche. But his stock didn't really rise here, in the past season or anything. So I like the pick. Jalen Phillips coming in to college. He was a 5-star recruit, so you're getting a real, player because he's had it for all his life. I think it's gonna be a great fit for the Minnesota Vikings. They're at 14. He's going to be a good pickup, and he's going to be a pro. The guy really gets it. He had a hell of a game against Florida State. So that was kind of his really coming out moment early there in the season. So I really like the pick there for Minnesota, especially since they needed a ton of help for their defensive line, especially when it comes to the edge.
Yeah, and Jalen Phillips was a guy that really quickly put himself on the radar, and I think the edge rusher position has to be first for the Vikings. Potentially a corner now, because Jeff Gladney turned himself in a while ago, like the other day, and they also signed Pat Peterson. But Daniil Hunter might be holding out, so they could be drafting Jalen Phillips as their primary edge rusher guy. And they're also getting Linval Joseph back. They lost Michael Pierce to the Chargers. Other way around. They lost Linval Joseph to the Chargers. They're getting Michael Pierce back, who had signed with the Vikings and opted out. But they don't have a lot of depth. They drafted a guy out of Baylor last year. I want to say his name was. Second, third round of the draft. Edge rushers, they don't have depth at all. And I like this pick as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good pick as well for Minnesota. We'll see if they can improve their win total from 7 of last year. And with the 15th pick, the one pick that most of us have been looking forward to on this show, the team that is on the clock, is the New England Patriots. And the New England Patriots have made their selection. With the 15th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the New England Patriots select Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State. I'll give the floor to the Patriot fans down below, Anthony and CJ. What went into getting Justin Fields?
Yeah, we're gonna, I don't think we explained it. So I guess for our favorite teams, we're gonna pick instead, because this originally would have been Sam and Caleb's pick. Not that it really mattered because they went Fields as well for us, and then we just kind of agreed with it. But listen, I'm just pessimistic. So I don't think this is how it's going to go in the real draft. But for the love of everything else, please let it happen. I have no problem.
What would you do? Hey, Connie, what would you do if it does happen?
Will
you do like any extravaganza things?
No, I'll just be a very, very happy.
So no mustache shaving. No mustache shaving, nothing.
Did you see how good I look? Come on. I might have to pull up with a Justin Fields jersey one of these days or something like that. It'll be fun. I'm not a Cam guy. I've made that very, very clear over my time. Sam, you said it before that you don't think that Fields is ready to start. If he comes here, he doesn't have to. He definitely doesn't have to. We got Cam for another year. I was kind of hoping that the three main wide receivers weren't going to be off the board. I know CJ was hoping that Parsons wasn't going to be off the board, but neither one of those came true. So easy pick, Justin Fields. And I think even if Parsons and another wide receiver were here, I think they would go Fields anyway. Like I said, scared it's not going to happen in the real draft, but hey, if we're doing a mock draft, I'm a very happy guy.
I think it's possible. I've heard a lot of talks about Fields dropping, some talks. Darren Orlovsky came out, said some things about his work ethic and things of that nature. So he might fall in this draft. I just feel like it really depends on what San Fran does at 3. But again, it looks like New England is transitioning to the mobile quarterback, bringing in Cam Newton. This will be his second season. Bringing in a guy like Justin Fields, sitting for a year, learning the system, and then, being ready the following season, understanding the game, having Belichick and McDaniels, two of the best in their respective positions. So and honestly, learning from Cam. I mean, Cam has been a top pick. He's had the ups and downs of being the guy under center for so long. I think he can learn a lot from Cam. From everything I've heard and read about in New England and even in Carolina, he's a great teammate. So I think he would definitely, mentor Fields if that were to happen. And I like Fields. He's very mobile, can move out the pocket. A lot of people compare him to a more athletic Dak Prescott. I think it'd be a great move. And yeah, New England again, like we talked about on the episode yesterday on the hard count, they have to be able to figure out that quarterback situation in the division. Josh Allen is rising. We'll see what happens with Tua, and maybe Zach Wilson is that guy in New York. So if New England could get that guy to succeed Brady in this with number 15, that'd be great.
I think it's an amazing fact that he's fallen here, even in this draft, because it all depends on, like you guys are saying, who is San Francisco going to take at 3? Whoever San Francisco takes at 3, you're going to see a lot of things start unfolding. Teams are going to start calling, trying to move up in the draft to try and get Fields. There's going to be a lot of that going on. So you can maybe even see the Patriots throwing their name in that hat, trying to move up a little bit to try and get Fields, because what better quarterback to place Justin Fields behind than Cam Newton? I mean, it's a perfect match made in heaven, if you ask me. Cam Newton's not going to be around too much longer. We all know that. He's on his way out of the league. It's just, it's written on the walls at this point. He's just getting his chance. And Justin Fields is Cam Newton. I mean, you look at what they were able to do. He's faster than Cam Newton. He takes shots like Cam takes, and he's probably a better thrower than Cam Newton, but he doesn't have that NFL mentality yet that Cam does have. So when I'm a Cam hater, you guys know that. But in this instance, I think it's a great quarterback to place Justin Fields behind, and I am not upset with that pick at all. Now, if he falls to 15, I don't think that's going to happen. So I think the Patriots might have to move up, but, we weren't, trading up in the draft for that aspect of things. And him falling to 15, if they can get him to fall at 15, because not necessarily any of these teams above them need a quarterback. Maybe there's a couple, but maybe there's a team that's trying to move up that is going to move up. And then you got to start worrying. So you're going to take that extra precaution to move up to get the guy that you want.
And assuming the Jags and the Jets are a lock at 1 and 2 with Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, the Panthers already have their quarterback. So that's one less team for, teams like the Patriots or the Washington football team to worry about, if to even trading up or thinking about taking a quarterback. If I'm Justin Fields and I'm taken at 15 to the New England Patriots, I would be ecstatic to be playing under Bill Belichick. Potentially in Josh McDaniels' system, I'd be anxious. I'd be curious to see if he ends up, getting interviews for head coaching jobs. Granted, he did have what I think he had like the 27th ranked offense or 28th or something last season. But I think Justin Fields should be talked about more. And I think QB2 right now is Zach Wilson. And, I've had Justin Fields for so long. And, the thing that's frustrating is people only seem to look at the Indiana and Northwestern games of Justin Fields.
It's crazy.
That's
everybody talks about.
Right. And, that wasn't just Justin Fields. That entire secondary got exposed in one or probably both of those games. And then he put himself back on the map and rose his draft stock back to what it was against Clemson in the college football playoff. So this guy, he needs to be talked about more. There has been questions, obviously, yes, about his decision making, his consistency with it. But yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good pick by the Patriots. If he somehow magically falls down to him at number 15, I feel like it would be horrible for us fans because then there'd be a new Patriots dynasty for the next decade. But, we'll see what happens in this draft because it is going to be quite an interesting one. And with that being said, let's move on to pick number 16. We are halfway through this mock draft, and the Arizona Cardinals are on the clock.
You know what? That's my bad, bro. I literally forgot to put it in the chat.
I was gonna say, are you guys gonna make a pick here? Or
Listen,
we got a trade coming.
A lot of things going on,
Bro, you can't do. I hate you so much.
All right, and let me put in the sound real quick. With the 16th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Arizona Cardinals select J.C. Horn, cornerback, South Carolina. Anthony, explain this pick by the Arizona Cardinals.
Listen,
that's all because that's all because I had already put the pick in.
That is incorrect.
And what's the lesson? And what's the lesson of the day, people? Never announce your picks before you select your pick.
Never get ahead of yourself.
Somebody could one up you.
We need our Patrick Peterson replacement. That's what it boils down to. This is another team that's kind of good in other positions. Obviously, their quarterback's fine. Wide receivers, you're A1 with DeAndre Hopkins. They need defense. They need a whole lot of help over there. So I think Horn is the easy pick. And Caleb, you might be mad at me, but CJ was a big proponent of this. So CJ.
Well, yeah, you look at DK Metcalf, look at Woods, Cooper Kupp, DeAndre Hopkins in that division. Gotta have a guy that could be able to stop those guys on the outside, and I think J.C. Horn is definitely one of those guys that could do that. Lose Patrick Peterson to Minnesota, like you guys talked about. I mean, it's just I feel like it's a no-brainer that they go corner here at 16.
Yeah, I think it fits either way. You could go with one of two cornerbacks here at this spot. I totally forgot Arizona was picking before us. They're at 17 with the Raiders, so I forgot that they needed a cornerback as well. So J.C. Horn, probably the biggest trash talker in the SEC, but he's able to back it up too. He's very physical, and that's kind of where it also gets him into trouble is his physicality because he was flagged multiple times for pass interferences throughout his 10-game schedule last year in the SEC, but you look at his game against Auburn where he had 2 picks going one-on-one matched up against Seth Williams, who is a very underrated wide receiver in this year's draft. And he just dominated that whole ball game. So you look at what he's able to do. He's able to get in, wide receivers' heads, things of that nature, which is, a lot of it. It's mental when it comes to the NFL. And if you're able to do that and then back it up with your physicality and your play as well, then it'll go a long ways. And that's the type of guy the Arizona Cardinals go after. You look at, Honey Badger. I mean, they like those type of guys. So bringing another guy like that, I think J.C. Horn fits very well.
Yeah, I think this is one of those picks where it's a match made in heaven. J.C. Horn to the Cardinals. I think it makes the most sense. And they only signed Malcolm Butler to a 1-year deal. I, for one, think he's overrated. But he's on
Appreciate that ring though.
I
appreciate that ring though.
Not necessarily 1 year prove it because he has proved he can be a very productive corner. But I personally think it's that 1 year to prove that he can put himself on the map and prove that he can be an elite corner in the NFL. So he's basically, trying to earn himself that long-term deal. I think he was overpaid on the Titans, but they don't have a lot of depth at their corner. They signed Robert Alford, who I was a little bit surprised with because he was on the IR last season with a torn ACL. He couldn't stay healthy. I think that was a big depth move there. Their other corner is Byron Murphy right now. And, if they have J.C. Horn, I think immediately plugs in to, the guy right next to or on the other side of Malcolm Butler. And we've seen a lot of flashes of Byron Murphy. I don't think we've seen enough. If it's Byron Murphy come week 1, I think there's going to be competition for that other corner spot.
Yeah, definitely will be. I feel like this was a good pick by Arizona. Definitely a good Patrick Peterson replacement. And let's see if the Cardinals hopefully don't choke hard like they did last season, because it was a pretty good choke job that they pulled off. As we move on to the 17th pick in this mock draft, up next is the Las Vegas Raiders, and their pick is in. With the 17th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Greg Newsome II, cornerback, Northwestern.
They need help. The Raiders need a lot of help. It's a matter of who you wanted to take for them. They need help at corner. They're getting burnt all day long, and it's just a mess in Las Vegas right now. I don't know what they're doing, but it's John Gruden, so it's probably not going to be the pick that happens that John Gruden makes here. But if John Gruden was smart, he would make this pick. Greg Newsome has the most smooth transition at the quarterback position. He moves his hips so fluidly. He is so easy to be able to be like, that's a good cornerback. You can look at this guy in his film and be like, this kid is going to be good in the NFL. Just because he's always hip on hip with his wide receiver, turns his head at the right time, makes the plays when he needs to make the plays, very good at batting down the ball, not necessarily at picks. But like I said, his fluidity in the position at corner is huge when it comes to the NFL, because you need those fundamentals. And he's probably the most fundamentally sound cornerback in this draft. If the Raiders were smart, they would go ahead and take Greg Newsome here out of Northwestern.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat myself because Caleb brought up hip mobility, and before I make my point, Caleb and I talked about corners last week. Go and check that out since we're making our way through the corners halfway through this first round here. We broke down the corners, the top cornerback prospects in the draft. Go and check that out last week. Caleb had dropped it last week as well in a podcast form. But yeah, they don't have any depth at all. I think corner has to come into question here. And 16 and 17. I forgot to make my point about the Cardinals here. Signing J.J. Watt, I think that makes the way how they want to approach it a lot easier now, because now they don't have to worry about an edge rusher potentially until the later rounds. And you could say the same thing for the Raiders, seeing as they went after Yannick. However, I can still see them potentially going after an edge in the early rounds, but I think Newsome here makes sense.
Yeah. I think they definitely need a lot of help over there on that side of the ball. So we'll see what John Gruden does. Henry Ruggs, I'm not sure what he will be. He had some flashes, but wasn't as consistent as I'm sure Raider fans has hoped. So that cornerback position is definitely something they can use in that division. Got Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill. They got some dogs over there. So you need a dog on your team. So I think Greg Newsome definitely be a great piece.
Yeah, like we said, I don't want to repeat everything too, but they need help everywhere. I also wouldn't be surprised if they go O-line. I'm pretty sure that they traded or got rid of every single offensive lineman that they had. So that wouldn't surprise me either, but there's just so many holes to fill. Bless Derek Carr's heart this season. So we're gonna find out what they do. But I like this pick as well.
Yeah, I definitely like this pick as well. I mean, like I pretty much agree with everything you guys are pretty much saying. Raiders need help. Got no O-line. Their defense is utter ass cheeks. It's like Swiss cheese. It's horrible. It's the worst thing ever. this is just something that'll help put a little Band-Aid on it because, I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible. And with that being said, let's move on to pick number 18 in the mock draft, which the Miami Dolphins have their pick in. And with that being said, with the 18th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Elijah Vera Tucker, offensive lineman, USC.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You got it, CJ. You got it.
We'll see if he could either transition to a tackle or guard, but they definitely need some help over there for Tua to be able to protect him. Two defensive-minded head coaches over there with McDermott and Belichick. So, they're going to bring the pressure on the young guy, and Belichick has field days with young QBs. So they're going to need to be able to protect him. Really good tackle. Played a lot of games over there at USC in the Pac-12. I think that's something that definitely Miami needs.
Yeah,
they could have went outside linebacker because they did lose Lawson and Van Noy, but I think they may favor Tua with both of these picks in the first round on the offensive side.
Yeah, like CJ said, we obviously got the wide receiver pick out of the way for them earlier on in the draft. You helped Tua out there. Their defense is pretty solid, so you can go with the lineman here as well, and then try to shore up things for the O-line. You shored up the wide receiver position. Like I said, I think this is the big prove it year for Tua. Teams don't really have patience like they did back in the day. If you're not good in the first 1 or 2 years, you're basically out of the league or a backup. So I think they're going to do everything to try to make Tua comfortable back there, and then if he doesn't succeed, they're on to the next one.
I'm very disappointed that you took the player that I really, really like.
I saw your face, and I was scared you were going to roast us.
Oh, no, I even discussed taking him at 11 to the Giants. No, this is a great pick. And, the Dolphins traded for Isaiah Wilson, and unfortunately he has off-field issues. They ended up cutting him, and they drafted Robert Hunt at guard, who was a guard out of Louisiana last year in the second round. You can potentially now kick him into guard or kick him into tackle and have Vera Tucker play the guard position or kick him out to tackle. So this is a really, really nice pick. I like this a lot here.
It's a fantastic pickup for the Dolphins. Like you guys already addressed, Miami addressed their wide receiver concern there earlier on in the first round. So you reassure that offensive line there, and that's what they need. Keep Tua clean. We keep bragging on it or harping on it, if you will. That these teams need to keep their franchise quarterback clean, and that's one way to do it too. And Elijah Vera Tucker, he's played both guard and tackle at USC and excelled at both positions. He has great footwork, and he'll fit in, pretty well there in Miami, and I think it's going to be a good fit.
Yeah, I agree. I agree as well. I believe this is going to be a good pick for the Dolphins. Need somebody to help Tua, and let's see if the Dolphins can go up. I mean, they made a lot of interesting moves. Got rid of Van Noy, got rid of Fitzmagic. This is Tua's team, and this is going to be the year to where he needs to prove it. With that being said, let's move on to pick number mock draft, which is the Washington football team. They are officially on the clock.
That made me nervous. I thought my internet was cutting out again.
And the Washington football team's pick is in.
With the 19th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Washington football team selects Trey Lance, quarterback, North Dakota State University.
Yeah, I'll let my co-host Sam start off with this one.
This is going to turn into a steal if he somehow falls to this place. Scott Turner, their OC, was at Ohio State's Pro Day to watch Justin Fields. David Carr came out and said the New England Patriots are the best fit for Justin Fields. I'm going to have to disagree with that. But, I think the fit's good. But I like Atlanta. I also like Washington. You think now Curtis Samuel's teaming up with his former Ohio State wide receiver in Terry McLaurin. You bring in another Ohio State quarterback, a native, Justin Fields. That's a match made in heaven. But Trey Lance has a lot of limited tape to look at, limited elite tape, I should say. Yes, he didn't throw a single pick in one season, only played one game back in October. But that is like that limited tape that he had to show put him in the first round, put him in, top 5, top 10 conversation in draft. And now he's falling in our mock to the 19th overall pick. And, they need that bridge quarterback. And, if Lance is off the board, we could see another guy that I'm high on, Kellen Mond, but in the later rounds. But if Lance is here, they need to do this. And, Taylor Heineke, even going into next season with potentially Taylor Heineke as your, QB1 for the time being,
part-time starter with
Fitz. Right, and like kind of working in Trey Lance for his second season. But they brought in Fitzpatrick, and I love it, and they need that bridge quarterback.
I think it's perfect because you have Fitz there to kind of be the lead way into that bridge that you're talking about, Sam, and then you create a little QB controversy or QB battle between Heineke, however you want to pronounce his name, and Trey Lance. You create a little young battle going on there. Heineke probably wins that out, but then at the end of the day, you're still getting knowledge there from Trey Lance and being able to groom him into the quarterback that you want him to be. And so I think it's a great pickup there by the Washington football team.
Yeah, I hate both of you. That was another wrench thrown into the system. We were looking for Lance to the Bears, but you got to make a little pivot.
I am glad that that's happened like 3 times and we're only at pick 19.
Like I'm a little upset.
But at least you didn't expose your pick.
You make.
At least Connor didn't throw his pick in the chat, unlike you.
You make a good point. You make an absolutely great point.
But yeah, I like it. Create the quarterback controversy. I don't think anybody. Fitzmagic is like your starter for 4 games before he turns into Fitztragic, and then it's over from there. And then, do you really want to go a Heineke? I know he looked good. He actually gave the Bucs their best, challenge in the playoffs, but I don't know if people really believe in him that much. So you take a flyer on Trey Lance. I mean, I say a flyer, but there's people that are high on him. Some people argue that there's not enough tape about him. But, yeah, I hate this pick because you guys took our guy.
Yeah, we had Trey Lance there. I think it makes sense for either team, honestly. 2 teams that need a quarterback. I think it'd be perfect. It'd be perfect for them. All of you guys pretty much had everything on the head. He could either sit for a year, might play a couple games here and there, just because of the quarterback situation in Washington is, I'd say inconsistent, just because of Fitzpatrick's play, just like Connie said. So, and he also didn't play a lot at North Dakota State. He only had 1 real season. It was a great season, 42 touchdowns, no interceptions, but still could use some polishing. Ron Rivera knows how to coach mobile quarterbacks, having Cam Newton for over almost a decade. So I think it's a great fit. They have a lot of weapons: Antonio Gibson, McLaurin's, Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas transitioned to a tight end coming from Virginia Tech. So if they snag him at 19 and he develops the right way, it could be special.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like this is a good pick by Washington because you don't have to rush him in. You could have Heineke start. Then you got Fitzmagic. Like Connie said, a nice 4 or 5 week warranty of Fitzmagic before it expires. And then if you want to, near the end of the season, when you're out of the playoff hunt, throw in Trey Lance 2-3 games, see what you got. And I think it's going to be a good decision by Washington if Trey Lance manages to fall down that far in the real draft. And let's move on to pick number 20 from the Chicago Bears. Bears got their pick in. And with the 20th pick in the 2021 Saturday Standouts versus Hard Count mock draft. Da Bears select Mr. Bateman, wide receiver from Minnesota.
I can't make this up, man.
It's a great commissioner.
What?
Nah, you're doing good. You're doing good, bro. You're doing good.
CJ, I'll let you take it away because we went back and forth on this one a lot after you stole Lance from us.
Yeah. Really good wide receiver. Didn't have the greatest season last year, but I think with the Bears potentially might be trading Anthony Miller. I've heard some talks about that. I think they could use a wideout, pair him up with Allen Robinson over there in Chicago. Andy Dalton is not a guy that you could lean on to make all the plays. So if you have talent around him, it could kind of diminish some of the things that he's not great at the quarterback position. So I like the move for Chicago. I like we could potentially fall and maybe go to a team like the Ravens, who also need a wide receiver there as well. But I think 20 is pretty good for Bateman.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I was looking at something. I'm not even gonna lie.
Right.
Yeah, we went back.
Well, I wonder what it was.
Bro, it was the draft board. I'm trying to keep up with these picks and everything. But yeah, we went back and forth. I was looking at D line. I was looking at offensive line after you guys took Lance. But I also don't mind this pick either. You have Allen Robinson. I almost forgot his name. You have Allen Robinson. I think your defense is obviously very solid over there with the Bears. So you try and hope that you get another offensive weapon for Andy Dalton or Nick Foles or whoever they want to go with, and pray that it works out. So you get another wide receiver opposite Allen Robinson and let it fly.
Yeah, it's a great pickup. I'm kind of mad because we have Bateman going to the Colts in the next pick. Again, just right after one another, keep going. But Bateman's a great pickup. You don't know what they're gonna. Obviously, A-Rob's on their, the franchise tag for this upcoming season. So he's not going anywhere. But what happens after the season, we don't know. Darrell Mooney, he is, an up and coming wide receiver, but you don't know if he's necessarily gonna be that guy. Rashad Bateman's a great wide receiver to take. He's overall probably one of the better wide receivers in this draft. He doesn't excel at one thing over the other. He's just overall a very talented wide receiver that can do everything that you ask him to do. He's a professional in his game. He's coming from a program at Minnesota under PJ Fleck where a lot is demanded out of you. It's probably not going to be demanded out of him like it in Chicago, like it was even in college at Minnesota. But, he's going to be a professional through and through. It's a good pickup, another weapon for whoever the hell Chicago wants to start at quarterback. It's good. It's good for that purpose. He'll probably be another number 2, number 3 guy. You can maybe slide Darrell Mooney over to that slot position, have him work there a little bit more, and then have Rashad Bateman as your 2. But I think it's a great pickup for him.
Yeah, and we don't know the future. I'm sorry again. I feel bad about this.
Good, bro.
But we don't know the future of Allen Robinson on this team, and they tagged him. They didn't have a choice. Allen Robinson, I feel bad for because he hasn't had a good quarterback throwing him the ball, and I don't even know what his high school quarterback was. Who might have even been high school? His quarterback was Christian Hackenberg.
Hackenberg, yeah.
And Rashad Bateman's my wide receiver too, and like Caleb had said, this dude does everything you ask him for. He's an elite route runner. He has the perfect prototypical size for wide receiver. He comes in immediately as your wide receiver too. I like the idea of putting Darrell Mooney out the slot. Darnell Mooney, excuse me. Rashad Bateman working his way up into that true wide receiver spot if Allen Robinson ends up leaving.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like this is going to be a good pick by Chicago if Bateman manages to fall to them at number 20. And one thing I know for sure is it definitely is an upgrade over Mims because Mims be swinging harder. Mims be swinging at people. So I feel like if you get Bateman, he could instantly be a number 2 or number 3. So we'll see if that happens. But who knows? This is Da Bears, and as we all say, Da Bears still suck. So with the 21st overall pick, the Indianapolis Colts with the 21st pick select Jason Owe, edge/outside linebacker out of Penn State.
Yeah, tough one because Colts are going to need help in that wide receiver room. T.Y.'s got his injury problems and things of that nature, but I don't think there's a wide receiver, maybe Elijah Moore you could take here, but I don't think there's a wide receiver you reach for to come up and take one at this point in the draft. So they're just going to keep solidifying their defense. Their defense has always been, pretty well-rounded, and it's going to continue to build, and they're going to continue to build off of that. And what better than to take a freak athlete from the defensive end position who can also play outside linebacker because he's that fast to where he can do it, and he's not that big of a guy either, so he can do that as well. So he's a very versatile type man. He put up insane numbers at his pro day at Penn State, like all the Penn State linebackers apparently did, or all the Penn State players did. So all unofficials, it's pro day, it's not a combine, but you take it for what it's worth. And the guy's a freak of nature. You look at him on film, he just gets it. There's some worries about taking plays off. But, once he's in a system to where he can maybe just rotate in, because the Colts have pieces, they don't have bad players at that position, but just to solidify it, make it a little bit more stronger than it already is, because you've got Wentz and you've got your wide receivers pretty much set for at least this year. You could go for a wide receiver late in the rounds because it is a deep wide receiver class that we have. So they can get somebody that's a serviceable wide receiver to, fill in for T.Y. when he's hurt, or, fill in when T.Y.'s tired, or when Pittman's not doing good, or he has his injury concerns as well. So, they could look for a wide receiver later. Go ahead and just solidify. Take one of the best players probably left on the board here. Jason Owe is definitely – he's not a steal, but he's approaching that territory just because of the athleticism and talent that he can bring to a NFL organization.
Yeah, and Matt Eberflus has done such a nice job. Like, there's a reason why he was getting so many head coaching interviews. I think if he keeps it up, at least after this season, he could very well be on his way out for a head coaching job after next season. And, they traded for DeForest Buckner. They lost their first-round pick and gained DeForest Buckner. They had Grover Stewart on the other side, and Caleb had mentioned him. Jason Owe being, a guy like a rotational player, a little bit of more of a versatile guy. And there has been, some questions about in terms of his production. His stats don't wow you, but he is athletic and he's an explosive freak.
Yeah,
yes, indeed. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, we had Uwe at potentially going to Pittsburgh at 24 because they do need an outside linebacker as well after losing a guy like Bud Dupree. But he flashed in his pro day. Had a like Caleb said, like most of these Penn State guys. Penn State, man, Ron Bowman, Sean Lee, these guys has always managed to get some pretty good backers. So I think it's pair him up with Darius Leonard. It's gonna be scary.
Yeah, pair him up with Darius Leonard, and you're solidifying your linebacker role for a long time. Obviously, if he works out. So I like this pick. I like Caleb said, you don't want to reach for a wide receiver. I know we stole Bateman from underneath you guys, so I had to make the little adjustment on the fly. But I like this one as like a saving grace.
Yeah, it's definitely a good saving grace pick. Definitely a good pick. That'll definitely help improve his defense, which is already getting better and better. So hopefully we'll see if the Indianapolis Colts can improve on their wild card appearance and see if maybe they could win a playoff game. With that being said, let's move on to the 22nd pick in this mock draft, which the Titans have made their pick. With this 22nd pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Tennessee Titans select Caleb Farley, defensive back, Virginia Tech.
Yeah, they kind of underwent a purge of their cornerback room. Dory Jackson's gone, Malcolm Butler's gone. So we talked about replacing Pat P over on Arizona. They need to replace 2, maybe 3 people on the Titans. So you go with him, and you obviously hope that he works out. But yeah, they got some work to do over in the cornerback room, and I think that this is a very good place to start.
Yeah, it's a great place to start. Vrabel's a defensive-minded head coach, and Farley, I believe he sat out. He opted out last season. So he's a great playmaker. So he's going to be able to make some plays, and looking forward to seeing what he does in the AFC South.
Titans need help at cornerback. That's a glaring thing. It's not only the cornerback position. Their defense, Vrabel is redoing it. He is completely redoing it, and Caleb Farley's going to fit perfectly into that system. There is question marks about his injury concerns. He didn't do his pro day because of an injured back. But I assume by the time summer camp rolls around that he'll be ready to go and be ready to start participating in those practices and things of that nature. It's a perfect fit. Caleb Farley's a dog. He's played in the ACC up against top-notch wide receivers as well that he's had to go against in Clemson. I mean, Florida State's had good receivers there as well. North Carolina has good receivers, so he's gone against some top-notch talent at the wide receiver position. And he's had a career. His career spanned almost 4 years. He started when he was a freshman, or was a positional rotational player when he was a freshman, and then started his sophomore year. So he's got the time. He knows what to do. He's long. He's athletic. His length is really what stands out to a lot of, scouts and people who analyze the NFL draft and players of that nature. And it's something that stands out to me as well. The guy can get beat, but he makes it up for his length. His speed's okay, but his length, if he can just, make a jump and get a fingertip on the ball, that's the type of guy that's going to be able to do it because he's got that extra length in his wingspan and things of that nature. Caleb Farley falling the 22 to the Titans is a great pickup for him.
Yeah, and I think Caleb Farley, because of his injury, and he'll fluctuate throughout the first round. I feel like I might have seen him falling out of the first round. He could turn into a steal. And, the Titans need help. They lost Adoree Jackson to the Giants. They lost Malcolm Butler to the Cardinals. They don't have any depth. They need that true number one corner, and I think Caleb Farley, a guy that coming into the season, some even had him as, top two, even number one corner, coming into the season. He opted out, had that, I want to say it was a back injury that, prevented him from performing at his pro day. You could also go edge rusher here, a guy like Azeez Ojulari, another guy like Gregory Rousseau we still have on our draft board here. But I like corner as well.
Yeah, I believe this will be a good pick for the Tennessee Titans, especially because that defense was horrible. That defense was so bad. If you put me in the secondary, even that will make it better. And I'm not good in the secondary, so that's saying something. So this pick, Caleb Farley, will hopefully improve that Titans secondary, which was awful last year. With that being said, let's move on to pick number 23, which is the New York Jets via Seattle, because Seattle decided to go all in on Blitz Boy and still get one and done in the playoffs. And with that being said, the New York Jets have made their selection. With the 23rd pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the New York Jets select Najee Harris, running back, Alabama.
All right, Sam, let's hear it.
This is for Caleb, and I wanted to make the big splash here. This team, they have Michael P. Ryan, who I thought he was a little bit underrated coming into the draft. He's not a true starting running back. I think he's a very nice complementary piece. They had Frank Gore last year. If there's one concern from his game, it's definitely his pass blocking. You won't see him follow through or shed through his blocks properly. But this guy, 2 straight seasons where I think it was 1,200-yard rushing seasons. This dude's an animal. And I'm not overly high on Alabama running backs just because there's very few running backs I think that are panning out in the NFL that have panned out. There's Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs. I feel like I might be missing one more. But
Alvin
I think not.
Kamara.
No, Alvin Kamara's Tennessee.
Oh, you're right. My
Yeah.
bad. I don't know why.
You're good. No, you're good. I feel like I'm missing one, but I think Najee Harris
There's
is going to be
Kenyon
added to that list.
Drake.
Well, he went to Alabama and
That's what I'll tell you. He did go to Alabama, but he transferred to.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to include Kenyon Drake, you could.
I guess my point is, I think Najee is going to be added to a limited list of running backs, Alabama running backs that are going to pan out in the NFL. This guy has a very, very promising NFL career.
Yeah, a lot of people might say this is kind of early to take a running back in the first round, at 23. But if there is a running back worth taking here, I think it is Najee Harris. And the Jets are building their offense. Their defense is pretty solid. They could add some more pieces there, but there's no need to reach at this point in the draft for something like that. You just got your quarterback. Your offensive line is pretty good. You got some wide receivers that you could probably work around, maybe get another guy later in the draft as well. Why not go running back? Michael Pirine, he is a serviceable running back, but he's not a starter. He's not an every down back. He's not, your first and second down running back that you can run and put between the tackles every single time. He's more of a let me come out of the backfield, catch a pass, and make a move here and get a first down type guy. Najee Harris is your all-around back that you want to hand the ball off on first down every single time too, because he's just a beast. His run blocking could be improved, but at the end of the day, dude's so solid. I mean, look how big this man is compared to everybody else on the field. Look at the way his legs are built. He can stand his ground when it needs to be stood, and he'll be able to learn those techniques that need to be learned in the NFL to be able to protect the quarterback. I think it's a great pickup for the Jets. They're revamping that offense. It's a move in the right direction, ultimately.
I'm a fan of the move as well. Mike LaFleur coming from his brother, Matt LaFleur. Aaron Jones running the ball. That's how they like to start their offense and then use the play action. So I think getting a guy like Najee Harris there would be perfect. And also if he's to be that bell cow, you could give it to him, 20, 25 times. You don't have to put so much pressure on Zach Wilson to make all the plays, all the throws. So I like the move. He flashed on the scene. Well, he's been a problem since high school. I remember watching his highlights. I think Alabama was recruiting him since like the 8th grade. I remember watching his highlights years ago. So now you see him in the NFL, it's crazy. I think he got hurt a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And then he just flashed on the scene this year. Ability to show in his pro day, showed his ability to pass catch as well, which is really good. I like the move. I think he's a very physical back, and that's what they need. I haven't really had that since Le'Veon, and he wasn't even that great for the Jets. So if they could get a physical guy back there, I think it'd be great for the Jets.
Yeah, I'm super disappointed that this was your pick. I didn't even discuss it with CJ, but I was hoping that Najee was going to fall to the Bills, and I hope that happens in the real draft because I know that they signed a running back this offseason, but I need the Bills to have a real running back that could make their offense so much more fun. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets go O-line in this position as well, just to try to help shore up that spot as well. But yeah, they need help at running back so bad. So I absolutely like the pick. Like I said, I just wish he fell a little bit longer. But yeah, Frank Gore, Le'Veon Bell was there for an eye blink. You need help. They tried out Isaiah Crowell at one point. I mean, it's been a revolving door of running backs, and I think that this is definitely going to solidify that spot.
Yeah, I 100% agree as well. This is a good pick by the Jets. I mean, who would have thought the Jets making 2 solid picks? First, Zach Wilson at number 2, and now at 23, getting Najee Harris. I mean, maybe Sam and Caleb should just run the Jets, and maybe they'd make the playoffs. But overall, solid pick by the Jets. Get themselves a running back who can make an instant impact. Hopefully, we'll get more rushing yards than Le'Veon Bell. Because, I mean, it's almost pretty much guaranteed. I mean, even I could get more rushing yards. Even I could get more rushing yards than Le'Veon Bell did on the Jets, and that's saying something. But overall, solid pick by the Jets. And let's see if they could keep on building. With that being said, let's move on to pick number 24, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and their pick is in. With the 24th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Tevin Jenkins, offensive lineman, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, they obviously. I'm gonna mess it up because I can't remember which Pouncey twin it was that retired on the Steelers.
Both of them.
They're both retired. Yeah.
Both did.
Oh yeah. All right. So even better. But the Steelers need O-line help. They're a pound the rock team. I could see if Najee Harris doesn't end up going, to the Jets, I could see the Steelers taking it. I could also see them, taking taking an edge rusher here. I know me and CJ went back and forth on that one, but we decided on the O-line. I like this pick. It solidifies it. You're going one more year all in with Big Ben, so you might as well try to help protect him. He's a cheeseburger away from a tight end anyway, so it's
No. You got to go Booger McFarland, a Popeye's biscuit away for being a tight end.
Popeye's biscuit. He might be an O-lineman. That's all, it's a little much. But you need to protect Big Ben. You need to make holes for James Conner and I can't think of the other running back.
Anthony McFarland.
Benny Snell.
Benny Snell. Thank
Snell.
you. Make holes for them. So all linemen shore it up and help them out.
Yeah, I agree. They need to establish some type of identity on that O-line. Steeler football, get back to their roots. AFC North, all of those teams run the ball, run the rock. So they get back to their identity. That's what they struggled with last year. Ben they relied too much on Big Ben last year. They made too much plays, and if they could shore up that O-line and maybe get a running back in the later rounds, they could take some of the pressure off Big Ben as he's in the latter stages of his career. I think shoring up that O-line first is going to be very vital.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few mocks with a center, Landon Dickerson, but I personally think drafting a guy like him with injury concerns is a bit of a reach in the first round. I like Tevin Jenkins a lot. If you want to talk about a guy with speed and an offensive line, this guy might be one of the best, if not the best run blocker, in the draft outside of a guy maybe like Sewell and Slater. But this guy might be one of the best. Speed, quick with his quickness, the guy, ability to just his speed downfield and like that, his acceleration. That is, I think that'll help a lot. And you mentioned Najee Harris. You're welcome for taking him to the Jets. We could also take RB1 Travis Etienne, but yeah.
I think it's the only question that you can really answer here is offensive line, offensive tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a great pickup. Tevin's a beast, especially when it comes to the run game. Maybe he can open up some holes there, for whatever running backs they decide to deploy on any daily basis, whether that's Connor or Snell, whoever. But they need help. They're both retired. It's a very big need for them. Tevin Jenkins is a great pickup at that spot for the Steelers at 24.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, if Tevin Jenkins is taken before 24, I'd expect him to go with the running back as well. But I feel like offensive line or running back is what most likely Steelers are going to do. So this pick, I think, is a very solid pick. That being said, let's move on to pick number 25, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars via Los Angeles Rams. As you guys may know, the LA Rams a couple years back went after Jalen Ramsey, also known as Caleb's homeboy, as they got
shout out Middle
first-round picks for him.
Shout out Middle Tennessee. Shout out FSU. That's my boy, baby. That's my boy.
Yep, that's his boy. And the Jacksonville Jaguars get a handsome 25th overall pick for it, and their pick is in. With the 25th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Dylan Reddons, offensive lineman, North Dakota State University.
Not a big name that not a lot of people have heard of or seen a lot of because he is in the FCS, not FBS level. But in 2017 he did tear his ACL, so you might have some question marks about that. But ever since he did tear his ACL, he started every single game there for them. Only allowed 24 career pressures over 715 blocked attempts. So he's got a great ratio there, albeit against FCS competition. But the real worry that comes into mind for him, it's not his athletic ability, his footwork, or anything like that, because he's great at all of those things. It's whether he can fill into the shape that he needs to be in to be an NFL offensive lineman. And that's going to take some time because he is only 299 pounds right now. He needs to, get that up maybe another 20, 30 pounds, which I don't think is going to be a problem once he gets into an NFL regimen. But I think it's a great pick here, a very underrated guy that Jacksonville is going to be able to get and help protect Trevor Lawrence.
And this is another guy, that opted out, played in the FCS like Trey Lance, but still showed quite a few fat flashes in the Senior Bowl going up against his Power 5 talent. And we went with Trevor Lawrence with, the easy pick, but, now they need to work to protect their quarterback. I think the last tackle they had drafted in the first round, if I remember correctly, I want to say it was Juwan Taylor out of Florida. I want to say they picked 7th. They were in the top 10. It was a few years ago. So now they got their second tackle, a guy that can potentially groom into one of their franchise cornerstone pieces on their offense in Dylan Radins.
Yeah, I like it. We've gone over it several times. We got to protect young quarterbacks. They solidified wide receiver a little bit. They still have Chark, and they brought over Marvin Jones Jr. They got corners with Shaquille Griffin. I believe it's Shaquille. I can't remember the one with the corner and then the linebacker. One of them is there. So I like protecting Trevor Lawrence here. You need time to throw the ball. Even the best quarterbacks in the world, we saw it in the Super Bowl, like Patrick Mahomes, can't do anything without an O-line. So you might as well protect your future franchise quarterback, future $50 million a year player.
Yeah, I don't know too much about him, so I'll let you guys, put the positive words out. I'm not gonna, so. Hopefully it's a good pick.
I feel like this is solid. I think this is a solid pick for Jacksonville. It helps improve their line. It helps keep Trevor Lawrence being protected, and hopefully this is a good stepping stone for Jacksonville because they're trying to build something. And with these last 2 picks that they've had in the first round, they could be up to something. And with that being said, let's move on to pick number 26 and the Cleveland Browns. And the Cleveland Browns pick is in. With the 26th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Cleveland Browns select Gregory Rousseau, defensive lineman out of Miami.
I think it's a great move, great fit. Compare him up with Myles Garrett. It's gonna be that would just be such a nasty D line. Very explosive at the point of attack. I think he's like 6'7", 260. So he's really tall, really athletic. I think especially in that division, you need defense, and you had Phillips. I think him opting out could potentially be a reason why he might drop a little bit, because now we saw the rise of Phillips going up, and Connie and I took Phillips at 15 to Minnesota, but I think having him in Cleveland would be a great spot, and he's a beast from all the highlights that I've watched and some of the tape I've seen. He looks good, so he might be ready to make an impact week 1 wherever he goes. But I think Cleveland could definitely use him. Why not? Even though it's not a true team need, but sometimes you can just go with the most talented guy and make it work.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of a tough pick only because, believe it or not, people, Cleveland's good now. Cleveland has a lot of great players. I mean, they're set at quarterback with Baker. Their wide receivers. They're a 2-headed absolute monster. They have a running back. Put somebody opposite Myles Garrett and just watch everybody be scared. I mean, what are you going to do if this guy turns out to be good? Then are you gonna try to double Myles Garrett, who can lead the league in sacks any year? You're going to try to double him. It's going to be a mess for opposing teams. Obviously you got the Steelers in that division, who are going to be solid. You got the Ravens, who you got to worry about. The Bengals are on their way up, so I don't think you can ever put too much pressure on a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Gregory Rousseau falls to 26 here, absolute steal. And I think he's to a point where he very well could fluctuate throughout the first round. And if your edge rusher core is Myles Garrett and Gregory Rousseau, that's a scary duo that I think every AFC team should be afraid of for the future.
Yeah, I think this is the same exact pick that Sam and I had on our last mock draft between just us two, is that we had Russo going to, or it was either him or Jalen Phillips that we had going to Cleveland to, have that other side opposite of Myles Garrett. It's honestly just plug and play. situation, you could immediately insert Gregory Russo into that lineup, and he's going to be able to do okay, if not, above average, because dude is a freak of nature. You look at this kid, he's a monster. He's just built different. Like, if you can look like that as a football player, if you could pick anybody to look like, you would be like DK Metcalf or like Gregory Russo. I want to look like Gregory Russo because Gregory Russo, dude, he's like 6'6", 6'7", like 240 pounds and just chiseled, like just all muscle and everything like that. So it's really enticing for them to go ahead and pick up an edge here, and they're going to go ahead and do it. I think they're going to just continue to build on what they're building on. They know what they've got. Their offense is pretty much set. They got 2 running backs. They got 2 wide receivers. Bake is finally doing Baker Mayfield things that we thought he was going to be able to do when he first entered the league. So their offense is fine. Offensive line's fine. Defense is pretty much solid intact. Just keep adding on to it because they're here and they're here to stay. And we better start recognizing the Browns a little bit more.
Yeah, we definitely got to start recognizing the Browns a little more. I feel like this is definitely a good pick by the Browns. Help shore up the defensive line. And I mean, Caleb, the way how you describe Gregory Rosso, maybe if you look like him, maybe you could pull more ladies, maybe.
Oh,
But
we taking
with that, no, it's all jokes, I'm just saying. But with that being said, the Cleveland Browns, it's a solid pick for them. Obviously, great points. If you get him, you can't double Garrett, especially if he lives up to the hype. And yeah, the Browns are surprisingly a good team, and the Browns are no longer the laughing stock, and instead that's pretty much the New York Jets. And with that being said, let's move on to pick number 27 and the Baltimore Ravens. And the Baltimore Ravens pick is in. With the 27th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Aziz Ojulari, edge from the University of Georgia. What did you guys think of that pronunciation right there?
This is one of those spots where you take the best player available on the board. Aziz Ojulari is rated much higher on this on a lot of big boards, and he has the right to be so. He's another one of those freaks of nature, comes off the edge. He didn't necessarily put up the stats this past year, but that's based off of, or I think he might have even opted out, but in his most recent season that he did play, he didn't necessarily put up the stats or anything like that. And it's because of Georgia's defense as a whole is just so well-rounded, and they're all so good. So you can't have one guy shine because they're all just that good. They can all just make plays here and there, and your stats aren't going to be able to reflect that. But you look at Aziz Ojulari and what he's able to do on the field and his tape, and then you put into that and on top of his pro day and how he's been able to test. Guy is an animal. He has the motor. He has one of the best motors. He just seems like a mean-ass dude when he's coming at you, and he's going to fill in perfectly for Baltimore Ravens defense that needs a little pressure on the quarterback. You could say for the Ravens to go wide receiver here, but do you really want – it's another one of those situations where do you want to reach for a wide receiver that you don't necessarily is going to pan out next to a Marquise Brown? You could maybe look at a Rondale Moore or a Elijah Moore, both the Moores. Both of them are 5'9". How tall is Marquise Brown? 5'10". Do you really want to go grab another small wide receiver to pair next to Marquise Brown and not be able to stretch the field for Lamar Jackson besides Mark Andrews? I don't think so. You need to get a bigger wide receiver, and you're going to be able to get that later in the draft. So I think you go on defense here and take the best player on the board, and that's Aziz Ojulari.
Yeah, and they also lost Yannick Ngakoue to the Raiders, which we had mentioned a while back. And I like, Caleb, that you brought up Georgia's defense and how well-rounded they are. There's multiple players that stood out. Aziz Ojulari, you brought up Jordan Davis, Tyson Campbell, Eric Stokes, Monty Rice. There's multiple players. They even got a West Virginia Tyke Smith that came in. West Virginia transferred the other day. But, yeah, I mean, Aziz Ojulari, not really your prototypical edge rusher size, but, like Caleb had just mentioned, this dude plays with such an intense, explosive, high motor that it proves everyone wrong that size does not matter. And plus, there's edge rushers in the NFL that really don't have this, big, huge Gregory Russo body frame that still prove people wrong.
Yeah, I think it's a solid pick for sure. You put I agree with what Caleb said basically for the fact that you really want a wide receiver in this position, but the names are off the board, and we've said it over and over again that it's kind of a deep draft for that position. So you kind of wait it out here. You're good in a lot of other positions, so you just go with the lineman or the D lineman, I should say. And like I said, you can never have too much pressure on the quarterback. I believe they still have Calais Campbell there. They did lose Yannick Ngakoue, like we said, so that's kind of your replacement, and obviously someone you hope can be even better than that.
Yeah, 100%. Change to shore up that defense. Yeah, I mean, we've said it multiple times about the AFC North, and what they bring to the table in terms of having a stout defense, stout run game. And that guy from Georgia, SEC, has played against the top guys every single Saturday. So I think they'd be a great fit for Baltimore. Pair him up, have him on that front seven with Patrick Queen and some of those other guys that Connie alluded to in the front seven could be pretty dangerous.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a great pick for the Ravens, especially what we saw against the Buffalo Bills. I mean, in the playoff game, their defense couldn't really stop the Bills. I mean, this was one of those where it was a problem for the Ravens all year. Like Caleb mentioned, I mean, do you want to go with the receiver, which is pretty much the same size as Marquise Brown? No, you want a big-bodied receiver. But, I mean, defense wins championships, so I think it's a great pick by Baltimore, and let's see if they can continue to build upon it. And with that being said, let's move on to the New Orleans Saints with the 28th pick, as that pick has been submitted. With the 28th pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the New Orleans Saints select Trayvon Moehrig.
Yeah, I think that this is a pretty solid pick. You're going safety or cornerback here, basically. But I think Moehrig is just too good to leave at this position. We've seen it with the Saints. Their safeties have kind of been a problem. Marcus Williams obviously gave up the Minnesota Miracle. They tried to bring in Malcolm Jenkins. That doesn't really work out too well. He's on the older side. So you go with somebody like him and hope that it shores up the back end of your defense. You already have a corner in
Lattimore.
Yes, Lattimore. You have a corner there. You should be good on that. You have Cameron Jordan up front. I was almost tempted to go with a quarterback here. I was very, very tempted, but I decided not to. I think in the actual draft they could. I really do. But Moehrig, got to take him off the board.
Wait, at 28, I'm very curious who.
Yeah.
I was going to say Mon.
At 28?
Bro, I just think that they're going to go. I don't think the Saints like any quarterback that they actually have. I think they're playing themselves.
Kellen Mond at 28?
Bro, I'm listen, I've been hearing some things. So a lot of reports that they're looking quarterback. So I'm just saying.
No, yeah, I think safety would be a good move for New Orleans. Dennis Allen has done a pretty good job the last couple of years coaching that side of the football. You can learn from a guy like Malcolm Jenkins, Super Bowl champion, Pro Bowler. As he, like Connie said, as he's getting towards the end of his career, mentor guy, can make a lot of big plays. 6'1", 200 pounds, has a nice size, so going to make some plays in that secondary. And I think that'd be perfect. We were also looking at potentially Asante Samuel Jr. potentially there at the end of the first round. Florida State guy.
That's what I like to hear, baby.
So it was tough, but I think either or. I think you can shore up that secondary, have a guy in that back end, and that can make some plays.
I think this is the perfect pick. I was telling you guys in the chat, there is no better pick right here than taking Moehrig out of TCU. He is an animal. Safeties, TCU produce, defensive backs and safeties like no other team does pretty much, and they consider it to be in the conversation for DBU, even though they don't have like the stars. They got the players because they've got tons of players in the NFL that have had long careers that do the job that they're supposed to do and are players. Taking Moehrig off the board there is perfect. Malcolm Jenkins, he's not it. Malcolm Jenkins is not it. He gets burnt in coverage whenever he's on a wide receiver. He can't do anything. He's just not, like Connie said, get any younger. He's not serviceable at the safety position anymore. What better way to fill that with a very young, energetic, ball-hawking, hard-hitting safety in Trevon Moehrig. I think it's an amazing pickup here for the Saints.
Yeah, I love it. And, I think another reason Drew Brees retiring, I think, is also a signal that the Saints are going to start going younger. And, Jameis Winston's on that 1-year kind of prove-it deal now. Actually, I think he's a free agent. Oh, no, they did. I think they did re-sign him.
He's on the team, yeah.
Yeah, they did re-sign him. And like you'd mentioned, like Malcolm Jenkins gets Burton coverage. He's 33. I think he might even be a cut candidate on the Saints. So, even whether Malcolm Jenkins is on this team, like for the rest of his contract, kind of grooming Trevon Moehrig. And this is one of those guys where I will not surprise me at all if he ends up in the first round.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like this is a good pick by the Saints. I mean, they're trying to get younger. They're in an interesting cap situation, so you got to try to do everything you can to get under the cap and try to get young. With that being said, let's move on to the next pick, which is the 29th pick, and that is the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are on the clock.
And for you guys who don't know, Matt, go ahead and break it out. I need you to go grab your real hat real quick.
Yeah, you can't be repping the Cowboys when we're making this pick.
Yeah, we are allowing.
I'm bringing on the cheesehead.
We are allowing the commissioner to make one pick in the draft tonight, and that's going to be here at number 29 to Green Bay Packers because Matt is a huge Green Bay fan as well as Sam is, but Sam was generous enough to let the commissioner make one pick, and while Matt's grabbing his cheesehead, there's a lot of ways Green Bay can go in this, so it'll be interesting to see what Matt decides to do with his pick.
Matt, if I hear another quarterback like Kyle Trask, I'm going to be very upset.
I would almost feel bad if we didn't let Matt to make this pick. So,
yeah, you got to make the pick here, and my pick is in. I think Sam might like this pick.
Oh, I just realized that we forgot. I don't know how this guy's still on the board, but
with the 29th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, I believe the Green Bay Packers select Asante Samuel Jr., cornerback, Florida State. And the reason why I go with this selection is because of the fact that our secondary needs help. Kevin King got burnt like a crisp toast in that championship game, and we brought him back on a 1-year, $6 million deal, which was an interesting decision. I feel like he's going to be gone after this year. You bring in Asante Samuel Jr. to help be that next guy next to Jair Alexander, and I feel like that'll help us out on the defense. Now, you could go with the offensive route, but I just feel like with Asante Samuel Jr. falling this far to 29, on the Green Bay Packers, I can't pass this up. I feel like this would be a good opportunity to help improve the defense to make it even better than it was. And I want to hear what Sam has to say.
So I like this pick, and there was one player that we forgot to. I don't know how he was not taken in at least the top 15. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and I completely forgot that he was there. We shouldn't have forgotten, but I honestly thought that's who Matt was going with. But corner makes sense. I think signing Kevin King, really doesn't change the fact we could even go 2 corners. It wouldn't shock me at all with the depth of this draft. And even Asante Samuel Jr., Caleb had mentioned last week, he's a little bit undersized, but the way he plays like he's a bigger body cornerback, and he's physical.
Caleb, you're muted. Or not
I know. I got the notification, guys. Chill.
Yeah. Let's hear Mr. Seminole defend his homeboy.
I love Asante Samuel Jr., man. Like this is like one of the kids that, being a Florida State fan, that you stood behind at all times because like he was always there to make a play when you needed him to make a play. And like it didn't matter if it was an interception or anything. If it was a huge pass breakup, it was a great play. And like Sam had mentioned earlier, Asante Samuel, he's not big, he's small, but man, this guy plays with a tenacity that you don't see out of a lot of cornerbacks play with. He's much like his dad. His dad was a dog in the NFL. Asante Samuel Jr. is a dog and is going to be a dog in the NFL. And that's how he played in college, and that's how he's going to play in the NFL. He's a great pickup for the Green Bay Packers. They need help. I honestly I originally had him in mine and Sam's mock draft at 30 to the Buffalo Bills because it makes a lot of sense. The Bills like to have those scrappy type of players. But going to Green Bay, that's going to be a lot of help for them. I'm just glad that I'm hearing Asante Samuel Jr.'s name in the first round in this big panel draft right here. I'm excited. But man, he possesses some of the best traits you can possess as a cornerback. He's physical. He plays everything very well. Turns his head around at the right time, hip to hip, has speed. The only thing that affects him is his size, and he's gonna have to battle that his whole life, like he has prior to this moment, and it's just gonna happen in the NFL too. But that dog, that mentality that he has, that he doesn't give up, doesn't matter if he's beat or not. He's not going to give up, and that's going to be a huge asset to a Green Bay defense that needs that type of mentality because there is not that mentality on that defense.
Yeah, I like it. Obviously, you guys are gonna know a little bit more. But if you listen, let me tell you, if he's anything like his pops, you guys are good. You guys are good. I like the Packers drafting the corner here. I think it just makes a lot of sense for them. I know Matt is probably hoping that somehow a wide receiver falls to them as well, because I always got to hear about that one. But listen, Asante Samuel Jr., go for it.
Yeah, compare him up with Jair Alexander. I think that'd be great for Green Bay. Could say wide receiver, maybe not in the first round, but yeah, he's very physical. I saw an interview with his dad. He was talking about him as well. So if he's a dog, man, like Connie said, like his pops, it's gonna be a steal getting him late in the first round. And I think Jair was kind of around this pick as well when he got drafted. So they've done pretty well in that. Well, outside of Kevin King. But
when I say this kid's a dog, this kid is a dog. Like, he is not afraid. Like, the best trash talker in this draft is probably J.C. Horn, but Asante Samuel is a trash talker, but he doesn't even talk. He doesn't need to talk because he just does it. He bodies you. He is not afraid of the moment, and that's how he's a dog. He's a different dog that way. He'll talk when it needs to be talked, but when it comes time to play, you're at that line of scrimmage. He is like, it's his last play game. That's the way he plays. Like, it's the last play of his life, and he's going to play that way his entire career. And I just think it's going to be a solid pickup for whoever's able to grab him.
Yeah, let's hope he falls down to 29, and let's hope he plays great like his dad. But let's hope he's not like his dad in the Super Bowl, letting a ball slip through his hands and actually have his son catch a game-winning pick. Let's hope he does that. Let's hope he does that instead. But overall, I feel like it's a solid pick, and let's hope it helps improve our defense. And with that being said, let's move on to pick number 30, which is the Buffalo Bills. Bills Mafia is back, and their pick is in. With the 30th pick in the 2021 NFL Mock Draft, the Buffalo Bills, or as some people call it, Bills Mafia, select Travis Etienne, running back, RB1 from Clemson University.
You know what, Sam? You scared me again when I put it in the chat and you made a face. I thought we were going to get roasted again. But no, I like this. Like I said, I wanted Najee Harris to fall to us, but listen, I'll gladly take the consolation prize that is Travis Etienne, or however you say his last name. Great receiving back, obviously out of the backfield as well. I think that this just completes the Bills' offense. You have Josh Allen, the running back. You also have Stephon Diggs, obviously.
Hey, don't disrespect Josh Allen, the running back. He could throw better than Lamar, please.
Well, no. I say Josh Allen, the running back, respectfully, unlike with Lamar. But Josh Allen obviously could have been an MVP last season. Diggs, Cole Beasley, I think their defense is pretty solid. So, hey, you want to pick up, a nice running back that'll complete the offense. Bills, this is your time.
Yeah, it could be the missing piece. They definitely struggled from the running back position. Hopefully, it's not like the other Clemson quarterback that they drafted, and C.J. Spiller about a while ago. But I think Etienne is really good. Serviceable back. He's productive at his time in Clemson. Like Connie said, that the offense is pretty much there. You know, they didn't really get a lot of production from Devin Singletary and Zach Moss last year. So if you could bring a guy like Etienne in and make plays, control the clock, that's something that they struggled with last year as well. And cutting a few of their losses, not being able to control the clock with the run game. I could bring him in there. McDermott is, even though he's a defensive-minded head coach and they have a great quarterback in Josh Allen, I'm pretty sure he still wants to be able to run the ball as well, control the clock, not have Josh Allen do everything in certain games and try to impound the rock and win some games. So I like the pick. I think it would be a great move for Buffalo.
This is an interesting pick. I like the fit. I don't think it's the best fit. But again, the biggest thing that the Bills lack in their backfield is speed. And they drafted Zach Moss out of Utah last year. Showed a little bit of flashes, but he doesn't have elite speed. Devin Singletary is not fast. I believe it was Matt Breida, the guy that the other running back that they had signed. And Travis Etienne doesn't have the Najee Harris build, but hurt his draft stock a little bit. Do I think we see two running backs in the first round? I think if we see one running back, it's going to be a little bit of recency bias, and I think it's going to be Najee Harris. But I think Travis Etienne is going to turn into a steal. But Travis Etienne was also utilized more in the passing game than he ever was at Clemson. And I think Travis Etienne, if he's drafted by the Bills, he comes in and competes for that number one spot.
Yeah, it's an interesting pickup because the Bills are a pretty solid team. I think they could have used help on the corners, where I was talking about, them drafting Asante Samuel Jr. But, at this point, Asante Samuel Jr. is already gone. There's not really any corners that I want to reach for at this point if I'm the Buffalo Bills. You take Travis Etienne there. He's a great compliment to Zach Moss and what they're going to be able to do there in the running back room because, Travis Etienne is a little bit more between the tackles. And, Zach Moss is a little bit more outside and speedy guy. And Travis Etienne can take on those hits. Although he does run with a high pad level, he will learn to go ahead and lower that shoulder, get lower to the ground, and be a better runner in that aspect of things. He's a great pass blocker. We saw that throughout his career when he was there at Clemson. So that's not something you got to worry about when it comes to the next progression of his game in the NFL. So I think it's a good fit. Matt Breida didn't necessarily work out. It could. But then you have a three-headed monster back there still. So you never know what happens with that. But Travis Etienne, a good pickup for the Bills. It's hard to pick a spot where the Bills need help. They could use some defensive line help too, maybe, because they were run on a bit last year as well. So they could shore up that defense. But you can also look at these guys later in the draft. Like we're saying, no need to reach. If you can get a solid running back that has the potential like a Travis Etienne does, you go ahead and grab him here late in the first round.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it was an interesting pick for me from the Buffalo Bills side of things because you already have Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. But, I mean, if you want to add a speedster, Travis Etienne is definitely that guy. So, I mean, we'll see if he actually follows the Buffalo that low. But, I mean, hey, he could be that missing piece from Buffalo to maybe get over the hump.
You're saying Singletary and Zach Moss aren't speedsters?
Well,
I feel like they're more speedsters than Etienne. I think Etienne's more of a, run through, the middle of a hole.
Well, I mean, it could be that as well, but I feel like if you already have Singletary or Moss, it'd be interesting to take Etienne at the 30th spot. But I mean, more is better than less. So I mean, if you want to have three running backs and be like the 49ers of 2019, go for it. But hey, I'm not the GM of the Bills, so it's Buffalo Bills' decision. If they want to go with Etienne, then let them go for Etienne. And we're down to the final two. The runner-up of Super Bowl 55, Kansas City Chiefs, have pick number 31. They are on the clock, which they have already submitted their pick. With the 31st pick in the 2021 NFL mock draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Kadarius Toney, wide receiver, Florida.
Dynamic.
Sam, I'll let you take it from here.
One of the first areas that Caleb and I thought of with this team is offensive line because they let go of Eric Schwartz, shockingly let go of or Mitchell Schwartz, Eric Fisher. They did bring in Joe Thuney, and Lucas Niang out of TCU, rookie. He did opt out of the season, so that's going to be probably one of those guys that's going to be potentially competing for a starting job. But now signing Joe Thuney. This is not a deep interior O-line class, but it's a deep tackle class. But it could potentially, cause the Chiefs, result in the Chiefs potentially waiting until day 2 for, an offensive line. But they lost Sammy Watkins, and Andy Reid loves speed. They drafted McCole Hardman at the time when Tyreek Hill was still suspended, and Tyreek Hill was back, and they had McCole Hardman and Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins. And Kadarius Toney's the guy you can throw out in the slot. One of my cousins is a big Chiefs fan, and this is one of the guys that he is just very, very high on, and that he would love. I know he would absolutely love him on the Chiefs. But Kadarius Toney, he's athletic, he's speed, and this is probably the biggest draft riser of the 2021 or 2020 college football season.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic pickup, especially with Sammy Watkins moving on. I mean, you look at their wide receiver core right now. You've got Mecole Hardman, who is a great route runner. He's always just seems to get open, but can't catch the damn ball. So, I mean, he's a great route runner. That's fine. You've got Tyreek Hill, who's just a speedster, so you just throw it to him deep. And then, you put in Kadarius Toney, who has the speed. He has the route running ability. But you look at what he does after the catch. You look at what he does in his routes to be able to separate, and it's more of a short game for him. Kadarius Toney is more of that, slant type player. You run a slant or you run a fake slant and then run an out, and you create so much separation. He's great at creating separation. He's different than those other two guys have. Yeah, you could go offensive line here, but there's no need to reach. No need to reach here if you're the Chiefs for an offensive lineman that you could potentially pick up in the second round. And, why not grab another asset to Patrick Mahomes? It works tremendously in the offense that they're going for because it's different than a Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins isn't the player that Kadarius Toney is. Sammy Watkins is more of a throw it to me and I'm going to catch it. He's not a Mecole Hardman where he's going to drop the ball. He's going to catch it. But he doesn't necessarily provide the separation that a Mecole Hardman or a Tyreek Hill do provide. And that's what the Chiefs offense lives off of is separation and getting open and be able to spot, holes in a defense. So Kadarius Toney is a perfect example of what the Chiefs are looking for in a wide receiver to go ahead and replace, what Sammy Watkins is leaving behind.
Yeah, I think you guys said it beautifully. It's your Sammy Watkins replacement. I mean, speed and the Kansas City Chiefs are just 1-1, and obviously this is what he brings. A nice, probably third, pass catcher in that offense. Obviously behind Hill and Travis Kelce. So I like to pick up. Wouldn't be surprised if they went wide receiver, even when you think, the Chiefs are kind of one of those teams you expect them to go one way and then go another one. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went wide receiver at all.
They shored up the O-line a little bit, getting Kyle Long, getting Thuney. They probably could still use some tackles as well. We'll see what they do probably later in the draft. But yeah, getting a guy like Toney would be perfect. I think what they struggled in the Super Bowl a little bit was just relying too much on the deep ball. And if you get a guy that could do the short to intermediate routes and that could set up the long ball over time, I think that'd be great. And getting a guy like Toney, I mean, it's just adding to the dynamic offense that they already have. That'd be scary, man. I mean, that's dynamic for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It would be scary if the Chiefs were able to add that to their offense. I mean, this is a team where they're pretty much going to be Super Bowl contenders the next couple of years, and them getting Kadarius Toney to replace Watkins is probably a no-brainer and definitely going to help the Chiefs. And with that being said, we move on to the final pick in this 2021 NFL mock draft. The reigning, defending, undisputed champions, Anthony Conover's father, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, home of Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, the God Squad. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, also Caleb Skinner's favorite football team, Super Bowl 55 champs, and their own home turf, have made their decision. With the final pick in the first round, the 32nd pick in the NFL draft, the Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, select Levi Onwuzurike, defensive lineman, Washington. Caleb Skinner, explain this pick by your Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I just want to give you major props on nailing that name. You did a wonderful job on nailing that name, Commissioner. I really, really appreciate that. It was great. But it just plain put it out there. Ndamukong Suh is not Ndamukong Suh that we know anymore. You know, he's not getting any younger.
Yeah,
and
he doesn't stop on Rodgers.
Right. He doesn't do that anymore. Like he's not the Ndamukong Suh we know, whatever. But at the same time, you look at where else Tampa Bay can get stronger. There's not really a whole lot where they can get stronger. Their offensive line is solid, depth-wise as well. Their wide receivers are solid, depth-wise. Their running back's solid, depth-wise. Maybe you could go after a quarterback, but Tom's still there. Tom, as long as he's protected, is not going to get injured. And if anything, he's going to fight through it. And the defense is young and deep as well. Deep in the corners, deep in the safeties, deep in the linebacker room, deep on the line besides one position, and that's defensive line, interior defensive line specifically. Because you look at, Vita Vea going last year injury, they were able to, supplement that with some pieces and do what they could out of it. And luckily, Ndamukong Suh, was able to be sort of kind of a presence there in the defensive line to be able to anchor it and be helped out by his linebacker crew and his edges that are absolutely phenomenal. So you think about it, if Vita Vea gets hurt again or Ndamukong Suh, starts declining even more than he already has progressively throughout his career, or if he gets hurt, then you bring in a guy like Levi Onwuzurike. And he's not the number one overall defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman specifically on the board. You can look at a Christian Barmore or somebody like that to be able to take there. But you look at what Washington produces out of the interior defensive line position, right? Vita Vea is a perfect example. Same team, going to the same team again. Yeah, match them up again. When they were playing together, Levi Onwuzurike had the best season of his whole entire college career when he was next to Vita Vea. And that's what makes so much sense to me. Why not take a guy who had the best, year of his life next to this man and be able to slot him in there in Tampa Bay just as a depth piece, just as a foundational piece right now, and be able to learn and grow off of that, because he had his moments. He didn't look great at Pro Day, but his film tells you a different story, especially when you see him lined up with Vita Vea when Vita Vea was still over there at Washington. So, I mean, it's an intriguing pick for me, but I think they definitely need to address that defensive line depth. And I think Levi Onwuzurike is a perfect fit there next to Vita Vea, bringing those two Washington guys together. It just makes a whole lot of sense there at 32.
And that's the thing, too. They brought all of their guys back. And even Leonard Fournette, Antonio Brown, they tagged Chris Godwin. They even paid Shaq Barrett after tagging him last year. They brought back Levante David as well. They've got everyone back. And I'd be curious to see if they're a potential team to trade out of the first round. Because this is not a deep D-line class. But if you look at the Buccaneers at 32, if they're sitting at their next second-round pick and their GM's thinking, we don't think Levi's going to be available and we don't have the assets, or we do at least have the assets and we just don't want to give up a lot to trade up for him, why not draft him at 32? Because that is not a reach at all. And like you had mentioned, Caleb, you could go for a guy like the Christian Barmore, even Jay Tafel, who had opted out of USC. But I think Levi makes so much sense here. You pair him up with Vita Vea, another Washington native, and Ndamukong Suh's not getting any younger. He's only on a one-year deal. And, you get a ring, why not come back for more on a cheap, veterans minimum deal? And, you get that rotational guy that you could potentially groom into a Washington duo, Vita Vea and Levi Onwuzurike.
Yeah, you guys basically said it all, but I think the main thing of this is Ndamukong Suh's replacement for when he's eventually decides to hang it up or move on from the Bucks. They're good everywhere. Once again, they're one of those teams. The Noah's Ark, I like to say, they kind of got two of everything. So you're good at a lot of positions. You're drafting for depth here. Like, you're not drafting for need when you're winning a Super Bowl. Like, it's very rare that you're doing that. So you pick him up, put him next to Vita Vea, Shaq Barrett, JPP, and say, go have fun, brother.
Yeah, you can never have too much depth at the D-line position. So they were able to get to the quarterback, stop the run over time. Like Caleb said, it could pair him up with Vita Vea, that interior D-line. Got Shaq Barrett locked up for the next 4 years. So that could be very formidable for NFC teams.
Yeah, it's dangerous. Should I go back to something Sam said about, this is a potential spot for the Bucks to move back because they don't have to reach for Levi. We're just taking that from what we have in front of us right now, and we're not doing trades or else it'd be a 4-hour show. But that you don't have to reach for Levi. You could absolutely move back and get more draft picks for that 32 spot. Somebody's going to want to move up there and grab somebody that they think is worth grabbing there, especially not knowing what's going to shake out prior to this. So usually that's how it happens. There's always a team from like 28 to 32 that's like, I want to back out of the first round and just accumulate a couple more draft picks.
AKA
this is where you need
draft.
Exactly. This is where you need to watch the Bucks and what they're going to do, because that's what I ultimately think the Bucks should do is pull out of that spot and pick up another, 4th and 3rd round pick and then go after a defensive lineman in the 2nd round, because at this point we haven't had any interior defensive linemen's pick. And there's not anybody really other than maybe a Christian Barmore or Tufeli from USC that you could really see going in the 1st round of this draft. So you're going to be able to get a pretty decent interior defensive lineman in the 2nd round, maybe even early 3rd round that is going to be serviceable for you. You could easily get Levi Uzurike in the 2nd round. I'm just saying that it's a better fit for Tampa here at 32 than a lot of these other interior defensive linemen, just based off of, the stats that he had next to Vita Vea back in college and things of that nature. So it just makes a whole lot of sense, and that's who I would want them to pick. If they're at 32, I don't know if they do it. I really want them to, fall back and be able to pick up Levi in that 2nd round. But if that's not the case, I like him here at 32.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I feel like Tampa Bay, they're in a situation at 32 where, you just won the Super Bowl. You don't really need to get an instant day one starter. You pretty much brought back all your starters from last year. This is a pick that's just going to be utilized for depth. And the most logical one for depth is definitely Levi Onwuzurike. Definitely Ndamukong Suh is getting up there in age, and he's definitely going to be a solid replacement for Ndamukong Suh, whether that be this season or next season. So overall, let's hope that these teams follow our draft formulas, because I will say I feel like throughout this entire mock draft, we've been pretty successful. Caleb and Sam turned the Jets around into a promising future. Jags look very good with their future, and
we were here.
And overall,
so you're saying Saturday standouts won the draft because those are both of our teams.
Well, if I as a commissioner had to grade the pick,
we had a pick.
I was waiting for you to correct that.
If I were to say, whoa, we had the more important Jets pick too.
Yeah,
you did have the more important pick. If I were to grade the picks, Jaguars did solid with their picks, but I will say I loved how Anthony and CJ approached the Jets. Getting Zach Wilson was a great no-brainer pick. And then on top of that, with them being at 23, and hold on, I gotta see who they selected again at 23.
Najee Harris.
Yeah, Najee Harris, though, those were 2 solid moves. I feel like that right there made the Jets an instant respectable team. Possibly But I mean, I will say if there's one thing that we learned is you definitely don't announce your pick before you're even drafted. I mean, that's just code 101. I think for that reason I have to give it to the hard counts, because the hard count they kept their picks nice and secret. You didn't know what they were going to get. And hey, they even admitted their own fault of, man, we were going to take that guy, but I have never seen it before.
Twice.
And Caleb felt so Caleb was so excited with the 15th pick, JC Horn, cornerback, South Carolina. I'm all texting Caleb. He didn't do a trade because the Patriots pick at 15.
I got very confused and was like, damn, did somebody not like tell us that there was a trade? I was all upset and everything. But we survived. We
I
did
just
it.
like
No,
seeing
yeah.
Oliver. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Sam.
I just loved seeing all of our facial expressions from the draft chat, and
Yeah.
Well, okay, I looked, Sam, as a commissioner, I saw 15th pick Raiders. I'm like, Raiders pick at 17.
Yeah.
Dude, did they make a trade that I didn't know of?
Raiders
I was
take
watching
Caleb-
Sam a lot, bro. I was watching Sam a lot because there were a couple times he looked a little. I don't know, and
Caleb's
I was
response was
I was
perfect.
just way
Caleb-
ahead.
Caleb's
And
response was perfect.
I was doing research. I was
Facts.
Caleb's response was
I-
perfect. He said, "Oh, my bad, laughed my ass off." No, it's like, and the Raiders pick at 17. Once I knew
Yeah.
Caleb announced it at 17, I'm just like, oh, of course, Connie, knowing the kind of guy Connie is, he's gonna take
No, that's
he's
not
gonna
true.
one
Me
up
and
Caleb.
it was
CJ,
still a great pick.
me and CJ had it before you guys even said it anyway, so we didn't steal it technically.
It's facts.
Or you can check the timestamps in our
We got the
messages and all
receipts.
that.
We got the receipts. We got the
Yeah,
receipts.
facts. We got receipts and everything. Caleb,
Yes, sir.
We'll go through these, but with that being said, for the viewers out there, that concludes the mock draft, the 32 picks. We appreciate you guys tuning in for all 2 hours and 46 minutes of drafting wise. Hopefully you guys understood some jabs that I threw in, like Blitz Boy. Hopefully you viewers understood that.
Yeah.
But overall, it was an honor being the commish. I feel like I did a solid job. I feel like my name pronunciation was pretty key, pretty good. I love Caleb. I love Caleb giving me props at the end for pronouncing Levy on Wuzarike. I definitely had to look at that and run through the pronunciation to get it right. But once I heard Caleb give me the hype, I knew I did it pretty damn good.
No,
And yeah,
definitely.
Caleb, if you have to shout out any plugs to end the stream, but overall I felt it was pretty good. You guys made some solid draft picks.
Yeah, definitely. I want to thank every single one of you guys for coming on. I know we had the hard count, scheduled in for this, and we appreciate them being here for all 2 hours and 45 minutes of this. Appreciate you too, Matt. I mean, you last night, we were on the hard count with you, and you were like, we would love to have a commissioner. You would be a perfect fit. And you did a great job. We appreciate you coming in. Again, you did a great job pronouncing those names. So much kudos to you. Love the cheesehead pick. I'm sorry I blew the fact that it was supposed to be a surprise that you were supposed to make the Green Bay pick. I know. I don't know if the fans. I don't know if the fans are on here for that, but it was supposed to be a surprise that Matt was supposed to pick the Green Bay pick, and then I kind of blew it before the show. So I apologize.
You blew two things. Man, you blew two things, Caleb. You blew the JC Horn pick, and
I shouldn't even be a host. I don't even know why I'm a host of a show.
Well, you know what? Now that you said it, I guess.
You are a good host, Caleb.
Thank you. But I want to show much love to my partner in crime here, and Sam. He's kind of the one that came up with this idea, other than Connie and CJ saying we should put things together and try and get these things going with hard counter NFL guys. And it's been a pleasure, being able to talk to you guys about NFL players, myself being more college oriented, knowing these players a little bit more. Sam has expanded my knowledge when it comes to the draft, and I know I've expanded Sam's knowledge when it comes to, watching college players throughout the year, because you got to pay attention to them, and it's something, to be respected. I respect all of you guys for the hard work that you guys put in. If you guys haven't already, check out the ticker down there at the bottom. Those are all of our promotions, all of our bills that we got to pay for our sponsors, so go ahead, check them out. If you're a gambling person, if you're a RX hemp person, you need some CBD pain relief cream, go ahead, get you some. Check out our store at teespring.com/stores/unwrap. Get all your favorite merchandise and apparel from the Unwrapped store. All kinds of different styles. All of our shows, Hard Count, Keeping It Blunt, Saturday Standouts, everything is on there. Whatever you need is on that shop. Again, check out our Patreon. Head over to patreon.com. Type in Unwrapped Sports at the top of that search bar. Join us, $1, a $5, and a $10 level, guys. They all provide different things. Go ahead and check out what's involved in that. But I will tell you at that $10 level, you get entered into a signed memorabilia or apparel giveaway. So last month we had a signed David Montgomery jersey, which was out of this world. The month before that, we had a signed Keenan Allen jersey. $10 gets you entered into that. It's probably one of the best deals you ever get out of there, because that's probably at least $140 merchandise that you're about to, collect for yourself just for $10 a month. And you're always going to be entered into that raffle month in, month out, because it's paid on a monthly subscription basis. We appreciate you guys for coming in. I'm going to throw it around to the rest of everybody else, and let them give their shameless plugs as well. I'm going to start down there below me with CJ.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Sam and Caleb, for having me. Again, first episode was a blast. Had a great time covering the draft. It's my first time doing something like this as well. So outside of with friends in the crib. So to do this live with you guys is pretty cool. So catch me at the Garter Podcast, covering all things NBA. And of course, every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, with my guy Connie, the Hard Count, covering everything NFL. And looking forward to having all of you guys back on our show. And hopefully, I can come back again and we can talk about the post-draft and reactions to everything that happened during the draft coming up in a couple weeks.
Yes, sir. Like CJ said, appreciate you boys having us on. First timers over here doing the little collab. So it was a lot of fun. Like we said, got to get you guys back on the show. I know that we're planning a little second mock draft type of thing like we did with Caleb the first time, but hopefully Sam can join us this time. As for me, Mondays is Generational Sports, 7 Eastern. Me and Josh do that. We talk about a little bit of everything: football, basketball, baseball, whatever you want. Like CJ said, the Hard Counts on Tuesdays, 9 Eastern, so make sure you check that out. Always keeping you up to date on the NFL world. Thursdays, Backstop Banter, 10 Eastern. Everything in the baseball world. The season finally started, so we got some content to talk about. Some storylines going on, so make sure you check that out. Anthony Conover _ Twitter, Gen Z Sports for my one show, and then if you want to throw your boy a follow on Twitch is Anthony _ Conover as well. But appreciate you guys having us on. Me and CJ. CJ, great job drafting, my guy. We did a great job.
Yes, sir, man. GM's in the making, bro.
Yes, sir. Big GM tings.
Thanks.
Hey, I want to thank you guys for coming on. I mean, you almost 3 hours. Really appreciate your time. This was so much fun. And I know Caleb said it was my idea. I'm not going to take credit, but this was all of our ideas. This is a collaboration. This was teamwork. This was awesome. This was so much fun. And like I mentioned, I apologize for not being able to come on your last one, but Caleb, per usual, Caleb did a great job. Matt, cheese wise cowboy, halfway through the show with the cowboy hat on. Awesome job being the commissioner, man. Like Caleb said, you nailed those pronunciations. You guys are always welcome. This was so much fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it as well. They should start a petition to get me commissioner instead of Roger Goodell, because I know for a fact I'd make the NFL global, worldwide, make it popular. And my Twitter handle down below at Matt _Scura, Instagram at Matt _ 20. And check out my podcast. Me and my great friend Caleb Conant do a podcast titled MCS Real Sports Podcast. We talk all things NBA and NFL related. We've done 50 episodes. Make sure you guys check those out. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it. we're pretty much available everywhere. And it was a pleasure being on Saturday Standouts and being the commissioner for this mock draft.
Yeah, and we thank all of you guys for tuning in. You know, all the fans out there that are watching continuously. We thank the Unwrapped Sports Network for putting us all together. Excuse me. Excuse me. We couldn't have done it, without that. If we all weren't in this network together, that is such a welcoming and family atmosphere, then we wouldn't be able to have the great times that we do on these shows that we are able to put together, collab the way that we do. And you guys can see it, the way that we interact with each other, the way we bounce off, the way we work. We take it very seriously, even though we make crack jokes or things of that nature. We do take it seriously. We love doing what we do. And I mean, I guess with that being said, I want to thank all of you guys one last time for, coming on here. We're definitely going to have you guys on again. And that's been another edition of Saturday Standouts.